no levels, Judah Friedlander. We
Cool.
don't give a fuck about levels.
Yeah.
We're here to learn how to beat up anybody.
That's
World
right.
Champ. You know, I'm wearing a world champ hat, dude.
It
You got
is.
a world
It
champ
does.
shirt.
It says it in sign language.
Oh, you
These-
crafty bastard.
Yeah, these are actually the severed trunk and fists of my deceased opponents melted onto my hat.
Now, is that a real weathered hat, or did you prematurely weather it?
No, I've been wearing this hat for years.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
My mom keeps saying you should retire it.
No,
But I
no,
keep
no.
wearing it.
No, it's vintage now. It's classy.
Yeah. It's been through battles. It's been through wars.
You know what you could do, though, for sure, is you could sell those, like the ones that you've worn for like a long time, and people would gobble it up.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Let's see.
You know how like those, do you know what a humiliatrix is?
No.
There's a lot of gals out there that make a living selling their old socks,
Uh-huh.
and they'll sell like various bodily fluids and excretions
gotcha.
to dudes who have a thing for that.
Yeah.
We had this girl Sierra Lynch on recently, and she educated us on this world. But
So
All
it's
the
like
creepy-
it's like vintage shopping, but with a more personal touch to it.
I like how you put a spin on it, man.
Yeah,
That's
I like
beautiful.
it.
So you wrote this book, which is How to Beat Up Anybody.
Yeah, that was 5 years ago that came out now. It's an instructional karate book.
Nice.
Yeah. It's
How
the
much
most
karate
impor-
have you actually studied?
Well, no. This book is basically a spoof of people who think they're great at it but are horrendous at it. It's basically, I teach you how to beat up ninjas and Bigfoots, but it's kind of like the worst martial arts instruction possible. And it's like a 208-page photo joke book, basically. And then, this is a new book that just came out called If the Raindrops United, which is a book of drawings and cartoons that I did, mostly single-panel cartoons, and most of them are comedy, but I'd say probably 40% of the ones that are comedy are kind of like dark satire on big issues, whether it's like, that
like
one.
honest tits, lying tits?
Yeah, that's a big issue. That's a big issue out there.
Well, and it has to do with the nipples. Like you went Pinocchio.
Yeah. It's basically a Pinocchio story told through nipples. Yeah. No, that's definitely not one of the more social commentary ones in there. But I do like that one.
That's a good one.
And I do like lying nipples also.
Nothing wrong with them.
Yeah, I like all nipples. I don't.
Me too. I'm a fan.
I don't discriminate.
Yeah, I've heard people say something like, "Oh man, I don't like when they have small nipples or like really pale areolas." Like, just be happy you get to see them.
Yeah,
Just
I think
be happy
people
someone
that
shows you their tits.
I think we can call that white privilege. Let's call that white
Fuck
privilege.
yeah, let's call that exactly what it is.
But it's like, whenever I hear people complaining about, like, especially like, it's like you're already getting laid. What are you complaining about?
Exactly.
It's like you can't complain about breasts.
I knew this
can't.
dude who was in a wheelchair. He used to play wheelchair. He used to play pool, and he was like he played in tournaments and stuff. He was like had all these physical problems. He was like really unhealthy, and
Was his wheelchairness due to health reasons?
Yes.
Or okay, gotcha.
yeah. So he was as a physical specimen, he was a mess, but he was addicted to prostitutes, and he would only go for ones that had really well taken care of feet.
Okay.
And he had this huge issue, like someone's feet were too big, or if their feet, like he would like freak out about feet, like he would get like almost
Interesting.
angry, like, and you want to go, dude, you should be happy that anybody wants to just hug you.
Yeah.
Like if you could pay a couple $100 and a girl will get naked with you, like whoa,
And
that's a score.
That's also a story where you really got to like give respect to the people that work in the sex industry. Because
yeah.
I have a lot of respect for them because I think a lot of people don't understand, what a difficult job that is. And think about like the woman who goes to him.
Yeah.
And, she's being paid to please him. And
And
then,
what does he smell like?
Yeah. And then her foot's like an inch too long.
And he's mad.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's more of a hassle than being a barista at some coffee place or something like that.
Way
You know?
more. Way more.
So-
The sex worker thing is a real issue with our puritanical culture, that we have this prejudice against people that have sex with people for money. Like,
Yeah, it's
we don't have it with any other thing that we enjoy.
Yeah.
We don't have it with people that cook for people for money, or people that give massages for money,
Yeah.
or cut people's hair, do a bunch
Yeah.
of things that people
Yeah.
don't necessarily want to do.
I have more respect for the sex worker because if you think about it, we're a capitalist society. They're more capitalist than the rest of us.
Really?
They're well in a sense, they're using their body for to make money. But what's wrong with that?
In a sense, they're athletes.
Exactly. Well, they definitely are. They definitely. No, they are. They are. Yeah.
It's kind of weird that it's still illegal, though. It really is weird. I mean, at a certain point in time, it becomes stupid. If it's the thing that everybody wants the most, if you across the board, what do people desire more than anything? At a certain time in their life, it's going to be sex. Obviously, it's food and rest and shelter, and everyone wants to have a comfortable life and good friends and all that stuff. But everyone who's sexually active, whose body works, is functional.
Yeah.
They want sex.
Even people whose bodies aren't functional, they still want that.
Yeah.
And if you look at all advertising for no matter what product it is, it's usually sex is the subtext of what they're selling.
Yeah.
So here's someone that's openly and honestly selling it, and then yet they get discriminated against.
They get locked up.
Wrong. Yeah.
They get locked up. I mean, there's task forces designed to capture them.
Yeah.
There's my friend Brian Callen. I think he's told the story on the podcast before. He was talking to some girl in front of a club in New York. Brian, he's a silly goose. And some girls he's like, "Hey, girls," and they're like, "Hey, you want a date?" He's like, "A date? Well, how much would that cost?" And she said, "How much would you be willing to pay?" He goes, $10,000. Yeah. He got pulled in for that. They like literally.
Were these women cops?
Yes.
Or? Oh, wow.
Yes. Like he said $10,000.
So was this recently?
No, years ago.
Okay, because I was going to say because like street hookers you don't really see in New York anymore. But I remember like 20 years ago, just going into like the corner deli and girl comes up to me and she's like, "Hi, you want a date?" And I was like, this was the first time it happened to me, and I was like. I'm like, first of all, what's going on? And then you realize pretty quickly, the woman's a hooker, and I'm like, no, that's okay, but thanks.
How hot was she?
She was pretty hot. Yeah.
So if she wasn't a hooker, if she was just a person who thought you were attractive,
I'd probably talk to her. Yeah, but I'm like a germaphobe, so I.
Are you really?
Yeah. So I would.
Like what level? Like Howie Mandel level? He's the black belt.
Yeah,
he's the gold standard.
His is different than mine. Mine's kind of different. I don't know how his mentally works, but there's different kinds of OCD, and mine goes through various phases. Like some people will be a neat freak or they might lock their door 5 times because they're afraid maybe I forgot to lock it and then someone's going to break in. But there's another kind where if you don't lock it, like doing it like the exact physical motions that you're supposed to, then something bad's going to happen to you that day. Like you might get cancer if you don't lock the door properly. So that's why you might lock it 10 times. It's like you'll get some kind of a hex or a jinx on you. That's the kind of thing that I have sporadically off and on. I've had it for years,
Sporadically.
In various sometimes it comes and goes,
So when does it go? When you're feeling great about life and everything's going well and
sometimes you think, okay, something's bad's got to happen now because things are going well.
Oh, usually you think about it that way. I was thinking the other way, that like when things are going well, you think, well, I don't have to worry about the hex right now.
No, usually it's when I'm not busy. Like, because then your mind, because my mind is kind of always racing, so if you're unable to just sit back and relax, then your mind, it just keeps racing. And then if it gets on a negative thought, it just, spirals and spirals and spirals. Yeah.
That's so common amongst comics. That we were just talking about that yesterday with Whitney Cummings. She has like a kind of a similar thing where she has to constantly be active, constantly be doing things. And I'm kind of the same way. I'm always doing something.
Yeah, right.
Well, is that a comedian thing? Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like sometimes when I'm exhausted and stressed out, I will go out to the comedy clubs and do 2 or 3 shows in one night. And people will say, "Why are you doing that?" I'm like, because it's actually the most relaxing thing I do. It's like being up on stage for whatever reason. That's where I'm most comfortable.
Well, and also it's really fun.
Yeah, and that's the other thing people forget. It's a hell of a lot of fun.
I got a chance to see Tig Notaro, Natasha Leggero, and Jim Jeffries last night. What a fucking show.
That's awesome.
Tig Notaro is hilarious.
Yeah.
So first time I've seen her live, she's really fucking funny.
Where was the show?
At the Improv.
Oh, cool.
Jim Jeffries was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
And oh my God, Natasha Leggero killed.
Awesome.
Oh, she's got this Oprah bit. I was screaming. So funny, man. It's so funny. But it's like to do stand-up. It's like I mean, it requires concentration and you have to work at it and all that good stuff. But when you've got the bits and when you're actually like, in the, you're in the zone and everything's going well, it's so fun.
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
seeing people have a great time.
Yeah, it's the most fun thing I do. So it's what I would most like to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So it totally makes sense. I've never like canceled a show because I was tired. Ever. Ever.
No.
And the other thing is like, I'll feel tired when I'm leaving my house. Like, I gotta fucking fire up. I got the show in an hour. But once I get there,
forget when you're on stage. It's like
everything's firing up, man. It's like,
and then when you're off, you want to go up again.
It's such a beautiful exchange too. Particularly I feel that way about like Hollywood clubs because you're not really getting any money.
No. Same with New York.
Yeah.
I mean, in New York City, you don't. Those are the two cities, kind of. Probably in the world, that where in general, when you're working those two cities on a nightly basis where there's multiple comics per show, you're basically working for free or very little money. So you're doing it for the love of it, and everyone is,
And everyone's doing it also because it's like these fueling stations, like the Cellar or the Stand or the Store, and these places where you go, and all the other comics are there, and we all like kind of fuel up.
Yeah, and also comedy is something you can't practice. It's not like guitar. You can get at home, stay at home, be really fucking good at guitar just by playing by yourself all day at guitar. But stand-up, you have to go on stage. Otherwise, you're not doing stand-up.
Yeah, you have to go on stage also when you're working out bits because they take a life of their own up there. Like, I'll write a bit out, and I'll have like, ooh, I got a great new bit. I can't wait to try it. Right. But when you're on stage, that fucker just takes turns of its own.
Yeah. I think that's because your mind's, at least for me, like, my mind's in, like, hyperdrive when I'm on stage. So I might, like, I always carry around, like, little sheets of paper with, like...
That's your sheets? Those are your notes?
With, like, a few, like, words on it or something.
You draw on them, too, huh?
Yeah.
What are you drawing?
Well, these are just... some random like
it's all penises.
Faces and dudes.
It's all penises. Why?
No, well that's a tongue on a dude, but it looks like a penis kind of. Yeah. So I'll usually have a thought or like a sentence or maybe it'll be like a one-liner.
Right.
And then I get on stage and then if it gets a laugh, then I immediately am thinking, all right, how do I extend this and take it in another direction and get another laugh?
Why do you have a ritual? Like why do you write them on paper? Why don't you put it on your phone?
I don't know. I'm just I'm more of a pen and paper person.
I am to remember shit. Like before every set, I have a notebook that I bring with me everywhere when I do shows. And before every set, like in my hotel room, I go have a big show that night. I'll write out my bits.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Sometimes I'll write out my whole act. I'll spend hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
I usually that's good. This is usually me before headlining a show. And like I get there right when like 5 minutes before I'm supposed to go on, and then as they're saying my name, I pull out a piece of paper from my pocket.
Go
like, all right, let's go. Because I'm trying to remember a few of the few new things. But I always forget stuff.
I do that too. I mean, but I feel like even though you don't have to do that sort of preparation, the sitting in front, going over all the material. When I do that, everything comes out better.
No, working. I think you got to work off stage and on stage, but I tend to work a little, like, I don't know, I saw that Seinfeld documentary, and it seems like he works almost completely off stage, like his act is written, and then he goes up and says it, that's what it seemed like from the documentary. I do more writing, I'm about maybe 60-40, where, as far as off-stage writing to on-stage writing,
Yeah, I think you need both, And people that don't write off-stage, I'm always like, God, man, you're missing out. You
have to.
Yeah. To get the most out. How long have you been doing stand-up now?
I started in '89.
And when did you become world champion?
That was at some point, I'm not great at math. It's one of my weaknesses, but it was... That was I was dabbling in it in the, I would say, mid to late 90s, but it's changed. The persona has changed so much over the years.
But it's such a weird one that you've always stuck with. Like every time I see you, got a world champion hat on.
Yeah.
You would talk
it's kind of like when you get knighted, like Sir Ben Kingsley. It's like he's not fighting.
Dragons
every day, but he was still officially knighted, so he still's got the title.
Right.
And theoretically, I'm still undefeated, so I still got the title. But initially the world champion persona kind of started as, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with Guinness Book of World Records. and I always used to try to break them. Like when I was 8, I tried to break the pogo stick record. I think the record was like 13 hours straight.
Oh my God.
And I did it for an hour straight without missing.
Really?
And an hour when you're 8 is like a really long fucking time, you know. And I was so bored. I was a little tired, but I was so bored. And I was just like, fuck it. All right, this is not worth breaking, this world record.
It's amazing that it's only 13 hours. I feel like
that was at the time. That was at the time. You know, that was in the 70s. That was like in 77.
There's a gang of world records that people found out were pretty easy, and they went, wait, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then they broke them.
I think there are, yeah.
Yeah, there's got to be, because there's probably people haven't even tried.
Yeah.
Like the Guinness Book is a fat book.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And you can like come up with a world record. Like,
yeah, there's the group that does that, where they come up with ridiculous things that nobody else is doing, and then, you know, it would be like a light rock, you know, juggling 3 of these, the longest you did it, and then you get a world record. You know.
Well, didn't Dane Cook, was it Dane or was it Chappelle who did the world record for the longest show?
I think they both had it at various times, and then one of them broke the other. I'm not sure who. I think Chappelle broke Dane's.
I think someone else that no one's ever heard of did like 28 hours.
So I think it was Tommy Tiernan in Ireland. I think he did 28 hours straight or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, fuck it, who wants to break that?
Who's watching that show?
And who wants to break that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Who wants to stay up for 28 hours straight?
Yeah, there's some weird world records, man.
Yeah.
There's some, like, what is it about world record? Like, I remember I wrote this article once about this guy who his world record was he had the longest fingernails ever.
I remember that guy. He was in all the books when I was a kid.
And they curl up, and that guy has massive nerve damage in his shoulder.
And has a hand that he cannot use for anything.
Can't use for anything.
Yeah.
Can't wipe his ass. Can't save his life.
Yeah.
And because it's heavy, it's fucked up his nervous system.
Yeah.
Like his body's imbalanced. It's like carrying a brick everywhere you go.
Yeah.
A brick made out of fingernails.
Yeah. So I was obsessed with those things. And then so I think somewhere in like the early 90s or mid 90s, I was like, I started writing all these jokes about breaking all these ridiculous world records. And my act was always very joke heavy, you know, a lot of one-liners. And it was always very, always did a lot of crowd work. And then I started making my own hats somewhere in the mid-90s, and I first made one that said record breaker. And then I thought it would be funny to make a hat that said world champion, but not of what. Like, who is this idiot wearing a hat that says world champion? It doesn't even say what it is. Like this just this moron bragging kind of guy.
Right.
And that would also and it was also good because then it would lure the audience in to ask me questions, and I love doing crowd work, so it kind of worked, and it fed into these like world record, these ridiculous athletic achievement jokes that I was doing at the time. And then at some point, it sort of morphed, and it became not a guy who was bragging. It became like an actual real-life superhero who really is this amazing athlete and sexual creature that is just better than everyone. And he's actually just humbly stating how amazing he is. You know, he'd talk about fucking Lois Lane, you know, in front of Superman without him knowing it.
Lois Lane? Is that Lois's brother?
Yeah, that was Lois. Yeah, it was Lois Lane. It was... and that's actually her real name. She's transgender. A lot of people don't know that. The comics, because of bigotry at the time, never addressed it.
Oh, they glossed over it.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they sure did.
Wow, how rude of them.
Yeah, wrong. Yeah.
Lois is a weird name for a chick. I don't know any Loises. She might be the only Lois ever.
Yeah, I don't know any Loises. So then the world champion kind of became this, and that's what this karate book is. It's just the real life greatest martial artist and athlete ever to walk the planet, and who doesn't brag but is just, you know, so incredible. And then the past few years, it's morphed some more, where the world champion is, I mean, he still has that, you know, that still is the greatest athlete and stuff, but it may not be talking about that, but he's become a person who is a champion of the world and for the rights of the people of the world. So recently, like I started doing shows in Europe about 4 years ago, and it really kind of opened up my mind and my point of view, because you know when you're in a bad relationship, like you can't see it, but all your friends can see it because you're like too close.
Yeah.
But then if you step out, then you can, like a couple years later, you're like, what the fuck was I doing? You know? So when I started performing shows like in England and other countries in Europe, I initially thought, oh, I'm going to be learning a lot about these countries. And I did that. But what I really started learning about a lot was my own country, because you were able to see how other people live, step away from the way you've been living, and physically be farther away. So I started seeing some of the hypocrisies and the ridiculousness of, just the culture and the laws that we have, the bullshit with the government. And so I started talking more about, the past few years' bigger issues, whether it's, classism, racism, different kinds of things. So, and I still try to, do it from the same ridiculous and absurd angles that my act has always kind of been. But now with, dealing with like big issues like that, because I've always liked doing like dark, twisted, crazy shit, in my material and finding laughs in dark places. And so now with like, if I'm doing bits about racism, I love it because I love how uncomfortable the audience gets. Like if I'm doing bits about, like I have one bit about terminology about black people, should they be called black, should they be called African American? You should see, like usually the black people they're a little uncomfortable at first, but then they're fine. The white people are almost always terrified to be even discussing this. And that's where I like to get comedy out of those situations. I've never been the guy who likes to get it out of the easy spot. I like going to where it's difficult. So I've been doing more stuff like that. And I also like doing it for everyone. Democrats, Republicans, because I don't find it interesting. Like if you're preaching to the choir, I never find that interesting or challenging. You know? I like doing a bit about guns, and there's people on the right and the left, and they're all laughing at the shit. That's what I like doing and trying to do. So
there's like a conscious effort you have when you're crafting your jokes to sort of like, or is it just like what you normally just sort of gravitate towards?
These are things I normally gravitate towards, but I try to do it so that I try to point out the absurdity in it and to sort of like get people to laugh at something, and then they're realizing, wow, the fact that we're arguing over this is really absurd, and so that they're going to laugh at it no matter what, what their point of view is on an issue, like say gun control,
Gun control,
because both sides, they want the same thing, they want peace, they want safety, whether you're for guns or against guns, they both want that, so they have something in common, but they're so passionate about, we want our guns, we don't want the guns, that they don't actually see that they actually have a more common ground than they think.
Right.
I mean, that's not what I preach in my act, but, I take that, that knowledge beforehand that these people actually agree more than they disagree. It's how they go about solving the issue that they disagree.
Well, I think when we set up two opposing camps, like the right and the left, Democrats and Republicans, you almost always have these artificial barriers that are like set up in place for people reaching common ground.
Yeah.
They're already in place.
Yeah.
Like you
it's
can't
already
agree.
black and white. It's already good guys versus bad guys.
Well,
no matter
left,
which side you're
left
at.
has their ideas, and you have to oppose them if you're on the right, even if they make sense.
Yeah. What I think's gotten, and I think this has gotten worse, and I think some of it is due, like, to the internet, which we were talking about a little bit, before the podcast started, where it's like nuance is like gone. It's like even on the internet, if on Twitter, if you say one thing, if you do one tweet and one person or one group gets offended, you are demonized forever. It's like you can't. It's like you'll never be the same. They're done with you. It's almost like like when a 5-year-old kid eats broccoli for the first time and he just goes yuck and then spits it out.
Right.
It's like that's the way adults are now on like every big issue.
Right.
It's
so you write a tweet about something, that's who you are.
Yeah.
That's
it's
you
like,
from now on.
It's like there's no room for discussion. It's like you're evil, you have to go.
Well, it's also taking someone and judging them based on a tweet is so precarious because you're dealing with 140 characters. You have a limit of 140 characters.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, especially if it's a joke, like there's so much more that you could say about that subject that would give, would sort of fill it all in.
Yeah.
Like, here's Judah's actual perspective on this.
Right.
But instead, they take 70 characters that you thought would be kind of funny to put out and go, like, you piece of shit.
Yeah.
How dare you say that about blank,
And the fact that people come to a judgment about someone's entire being immediately and then don't even want to discuss things. It's like you can't progress if you can't discuss things.
I think you're dealing with what you're calling progressives. And people that call themselves progressives are almost...
Many people on the left, or when we're using labels again for lack of a better term, are more fascist than people on the right.
Definitely more regressive.
Fascism can come from both sides, and with freedom of speech, people can. And I'm someone who's for human rights 100% and always standing up for the underdog. There's actually a cartoon.
The term fascist, I used to think this too, but I think the term fascist actually deals with conservative issues. I'm pretty sure. Like, Jamie, pull up the definition of fascist.
Yeah, I'm forgetting because I've looked it up before too.
Because people use it. I think people use it incorrectly because they just assume it's like.
But I have this one cartoon here in the book, and it's at a college campus, and it says Smoking Awareness Week. On the right, you have a good lung, which is white, and a bad lung, which is black. And underneath, they say, this poster's racist. Then she goes, let's protest. And that's like, the bad lung, which is black, is not bad because of anything to do with like the color. It's because a black lung is a polluted lung that is not healthy.
I understand this.
Yeah. But I'm saying, some people, their heart's in the right place, but they're misguided.
Yes.
So that's without cartoons.
Why? Here we go. Fascists. Governmental system led by a dictator having racism. I've seen more than one definition. That's interesting.
I've seen a different definition. Let's look at Webster's definition. What do they say?
Organized society, government ruled by a dictator. It's criticism, emphasizing aggression. But I've seen it written.
Full definition. Let's see. A political philosophy.
Centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial. That's a weird word. Dictatorial leaderships.
Right, but see, some of it is social regimentation, a certain philosophy that is forced upon people,
Yeah, so that is fascist then.
Yeah. I just think there's so much with culture now. There's the not in the concept of discussing something. And also when you talk to people who disagree with you on something, that's when you can really learn, about their point of view and your point of view. You both can learn. I
think also what we're dealing with is there's a lot of people now that were marginalized before and didn't have a viewpoint, maybe in high school and maybe even in college. And now, because of the internet, they've found like-minded people, they band together, and they really become sort of thought bullies.
Yeah. The people... It's not about like you just said something wrong. It's like you now have to be shamed for it.
Exactly.
Instead of like, if someone says something, that's even if someone ever says anything to me about something, it's like I want to discuss it and find out why they're feeling that way, and then if I still think differently, explain my point of view to them so that they can see it. But I don't know. People it's like they just want to fight. They just want to shame and fight. It's weird.
They want to attack because they're afraid of being attacked themselves. It's almost like they want to attack first. That's a lot of what's going on.
It's part of what I teach in my book, How to Beat Up Anybody, is self-offense. Yeah.
Do you teach that
Kick first,
verbally?
Ask questions, never. Yeah. No.
Shame first?
No.
Before they shame you?
No, I don't do that.
Shame them to death, maybe?
No, I don't do that. I don't shame people.
No, never?
Not into that, no.
Maybe that's what your new persona, when you morph.
Oh, okay.
Again?
Oh, that's
You'd
interesting.
be a shamer.
That's interesting.
You just start shaming people for shit that's not even shameful.
Yeah, I like that.
So
I did that recently a little bit in my act. I did that a little bit.
Yeah?
Where I'm sort of making fun of it. Like as soon as when people start clapping, I'm like, guys, just stop that. That's actually offensive to people without hands. And then I'll say, I'd like to apologize for wearing a hat. That's offensive to our friends in the headless community. Just making fun of the people who are like way too PC.
I had this woman, Christina Summers, on, who's a feminist, and she calls herself the factual feminist. She kind of fights against a lot of ridiculous ideology that's going around the quote unquote feminist community, where they're spouting false statistics and fake studies or studies that are not real or very biased.
Well, within the feminist movement, there's many different factions. Yeah.
And I forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry, buddy.
That's okay.
They'll come back to you.
What did you just say before that? What were you just saying?
We're talking about there's many different factions of feminism.
No, it was before that. Shit.
I was talking about the headless community and not offending them.
Oh, clapping. That's what it was.
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
She was saying that I'm fighting off a cold, I think. Brain's not so hot today.
I think it's going around with everybody.
It is.
Everyone's got some kind of weird sort of cold.
She was saying that she does these shows and where they people give speeches and they don't want people clapping because they think clapping will trigger people that have been beaten before. So like hearing this
Yeah.
will trigger the idea of you being
read
beaten.
something
So they
about
all
that.
they do jazz hands or they snap.
Yeah,
like
they snap.
beatnik
Yeah, I
poets.
read about the snapping thing. Just insane. And you know, the original, I think when the beatniks in the 60s in New York used to do the snapping, that was because they were having illegal shows. And if they all applauded, that would, the neighbor, people who lived, you know, on the upstairs or next door would hear the applaud, then they'd call the cops and shut them down.
Really?
So they did the snapping because it was quieter than clapping. And that way they can still show like that, you know, appreciation. Yeah. So that was the initial thing why the beatniks did it.
Is that real?
I think so. It's because they had illegal speakeasies where there were like after-hour shows going on and shit.
My mom used to have this really cool lamp in her house that was made with like lead and stained glass, and it was from an original speakeasy from the Prohibition.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck she did with that thing. It was so awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's cool.
I don't know if she sold it or got rid of it or what. God damn it. I wish I had that, though. Because she had it restored and put together. I mean, it's like a lamp from like 1921 or something like that.
Where is she? Where, like...
My mom lives in Mexico now.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah, my mom and my stepdad, they live in Mexico. They found like this strange community of expats in Mexico. A lot of people move to Mexico when they get older.
I think Jesse Ventura's got like a place down there.
Yeah, he lives in Mexico. He's a
I want to go
weird fucker.
I want to get to know Mexico because I really don't know it that well at all.
Mexico's awesome. I love Mexico.
I hear Mexico City's just amazing.
It's very cool.
And they have a lot of good filmmakers coming out of there now.
But the pollution is staggering.
Really?
Yeah, I took photos of it and put it up on my Instagram. And see if you can find one of those. You can't even believe it. It doesn't even look real. It looks like you're flying into a fire.
Well, I have friends like from Beijing in China, and like,
ooh, that's even worse.
It's just insane.
I think that's the worst in the world. Right?
Yeah,
China has some of the worst.
I think so. Yeah.
But Mexico City was so bad, I was getting headaches there, and you smell it. You smell it when you land. You're like, whoa! Like and apparently they say the pollution is way better now than it was a decade ago.
Wow.
Which is very hard to believe.
Wow.
Traffic there is also insane. The traffic lights are a fucking joke.
Or it's a free for all, right?
And trying to merge, like, look at that. That's flying in.
That's Mexico City.
Yeah, like that cloud of shit. That is that's.
When I was driving here, I just heard it on the radio in Porter Ranch. There's some kind of gas leak. And, and they just got this camera. The special camera that can like see gas, and it's like the government and the authorities said no, it's not leaking, and someone got this special camera that can like see gas, and it's still going everywhere in Porter Ranch, and 700 families have moved out, and they're like trying to like fight the government and sue the government or that plant or whatever that's doing it. Yeah.
Oh God.
Because I'm like, that's not that far from here.
New infrared video shows possible gas cloud lingering above. Oh, whoa.
Yeah, and it's still like leaking like crazy. And I'm like,
what the fuck? That's the gas?
Yeah, that's what the special cameras see.
Shit.
That's going on now. They had a big meeting last night, and they said 700 families have moved out on their own. Like the government didn't tell them to. They were like, fuck it, we don't trust you guys. We're moving out.
Wow, good for them. The government
that's
is
like
the
close
last
to here,
person
right?
you should ever listen to. They're very close to here. That's only like 5 or 6 miles.
Because I'm like,
there.
that gas can't be just going to Porter Ranch. It's not like it knows.
It's probably going right to Jamie's head.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is fucked. But the government is all about trying to minimize the impact on the economy in these areas.
Right.
So if people are breathing, they're not dropping dead on the spot.
Capitalism wins. Yeah.
What is this lady doing with a mask on and sunglasses? That bitch is the one who least. She let the gas out herself.
Oh,
She's
maybe she did it.
Yeah, that's what she's doing. She's like a bad guy that shows up at the scene of the crime. Look at her.
Yeah.
I don't know how this gas got out, but we got to get out of here. Meanwhile, she's got a monkey wrench in her back pocket. She's unscrewing the gas. Gas leak controversy at Porter Ranch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
Nah.
You know what else isn't good? There was something I wanted to talk about today because it was so fucking ridiculous. I tweeted it earlier today. There's this man who's a 52-year-old father who identifies as a 6-year-old girl. And it's hilarious because I tweeted it, and it's this story about this. He's Canadian, and this guy who identifies as a 6-year-old girl.
Okay.
And like this is his thing. Yeah.
So he dresses up like a 6-year-old and acts like a 6-year-old.
Yes, that's what he identifies as. He identifies as, and this sort of people don't want to admit this, but this sort of is what's going on with a lot of folks when it comes to this whole transgender thing. The idea that you identify with something, like being normal and healthy, and this is the extreme of that. I mean, you're right now, you cannot look at that and not think that guy is out of his fucking mind. But when I tweeted it, then I watched all the other people that are commenting on it online, and there's people that are very supportive of the transgender community and very supportive of transgender rights, and they've hit this wall of ridiculousness. Like, how do you respond to this now? Do you say, okay, that's enough? Well, if that's enough, is that enough? Well, what do we do about Bruce Jenner?
Right.
What how do you say about this guy? What do you say about that guy who wants to be a woman, or this guy who thinks he's a fox, or this guy who I'm a raccoon kin? I mean, people are out of their fucking mind, and that's something we're going to have to come to grips with in this
and that's
thing that
okay
we're
to
doing.
be out of
Where
your
we're
mind.
trying to be progressive, and we're trying to be as open-minded and accepting of diversity as possible. You're going to deal with this.
I think this is awesome. I think he should go back to kindergarten, this guy.
He's
Just see what happens.
That is kindergarten. 6 is his first grade?
Yeah.
7? Yeah.
I went out with a girl once.
Uh-oh.
And-
How old? How old was this girl? How old were you, you fuck?
No, she was like 25, 26.
That's a woman, have you know.
So I went out with her, but I think we went out a short time. We went out for like a few weeks, we dated, but she had, or maybe more, I think she had split personality disorder.
Why is that?
Because sometimes she was completely normal, and then sometimes it was like she had no vocabulary and would speak in broken English. And like, I would just be talking about something and be like, yeah, I saw this thing on CNN. And then she'd go, what's CNN? I'm like, well, you have to know what CNN is. You grew up in New York City and you don't know what CNN is. And then another point, like, I was talking about the New York Jets game, and she's like, what are the Jets? And I'm like, how do you grew up here in New York, how do you not know, even if you don't watch football, you're going to see an ad that's on a bus that's driving by or something.
Did you have sex with this girl?
No, I didn't.
Good for you.
And so at and then at one point we're sitting in my car, and she's talking normal, like Queen's accent, and then she starts talking all of a sudden like in like broken English, like, hi, how are you? Oh, okay. And I'm like, what? And then for a second she goes, come on, get it together. I'm like,
she said that to herself?
Yeah, to herself. She's like talking to herself.
Oh, well, she's crazy.
Yeah. And then she wanted to make a commitment, like let's get serious.
About what?
About dating, like being a couple. But she said to me she had something really serious she needs to tell me, but she can't say it until after I say to her that I want to be in a committed relationship with her, just the two of us.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, no, that's the kind of shit you put out beforehand.
She's got her own rules, man.
So I noticed, like, when she would start changing her voice, talking that broken English, it was almost like her vocabulary got worse too. So I actually think she had split personality disorder, where one was like she was like a little girl.
Was she hot?
Yeah, she's very good looking.
Should have hung out with her.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Who cares?
Yeah, but didn't work out. But good girl. Yeah, but interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, there's people whose brains don't work so good.
Yeah.
Just like some people have club foot.
Right.
Some people have shitty brains.
Right. Club brain.
Yeah, for sure. Cleft palate.
Yeah.
Fucked up brain.
Yeah.
It's just, defects.
Dude, I just want to say I love the American Werewolf in London werewolf he got out there.
Pretty dope, huh?
Yeah, that was a great movie.
Shout out to Pat McGee. There's a guy named Pat McGee. He does special effects for films, makeup stuff.
Dude, that's an incredible job he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a mold. He makes them for anybody who wants one can get one.
Really?
Yeah, he does a Yeti too. He has a big giant Yeti.
Oh, cool.
And he does the Alien.
I'm gonna look him up because that's really good.
Yeah, he's really good.
And that was a great movie.
Well, he's one of those guys that believes in makeup, special effects, as opposed to CGI.
I did that. I was into that when I was a little kid.
Me too.
Really?
Me too. Yeah. I was into Rick Baker. I wanted to do that for the movies. Like after I saw Star Wars, like the cantina scene.
Yeah.
Cantina scene.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, whoa, like that was all a bunch of masks.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, if you watch that today, it looks so stupid. The masks are so obviously masks; they don't move.
Right.
They're just rubber frozen.
But that scene blew people away.
Well, the movie did. Yeah, the special effects were incredible.
I still love that movie. I think the spaceship stuff is still great in that movie.
It's fucking terrible. Watch it again.
Okay. I don't know. I guess I can't see it because when I watch it, I just love it.
Well, you know what I watched this morning? I watched it with my kid. I watched the Planet of the Apes from 2001.
Was that
with
the
Marky
Wahlberg?
Mark?
Yeah, I didn't like that one.
It was terrible.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all.
But I was watching the special effects. I'm like, wow, just 14 years ago, special effects look like shit.
Yeah.
They look so fake. But at the time, we were like, whoa, cool.
Right. That's finally they got it.
He's
right.
in space for
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
You know, that suspension of disbelief was.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, like, you know, Interstellar or something like that, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
they've got it.
I don't know. Sometimes when I see stuff now, I still like the superhero movies. It'll be like, okay, here's Robert Downey Jr. talking to Mark Ruffalo, and then they put on their superhero costumes, and then it's like watching a cartoon. You
Right.
know? It's like
Yeah, yeah.
I never feel like it's Robert Downey Jr. in that suit when he's flying around and punching shit.
Yeah, that's
you
why
know?
they have to do the cutaway to his face with all the lights on it because he's got the
Right,
mask
right.
on.
So
He's-
I kind of lose believability with that stuff.
I sat down with my kids the other day, and we watched King Kong, the 1933 version of King Kong. Oh
yeah, with
my
Fay
God!
Wray. Yeah, it's a great movie.
It's incredible to watch what a difference movies are. Like what difference it is between a 1933 movie and a 2015 movie.
Yeah. I even like the 1976 one with Jeff Bridges and Jessica Lange.
Well, we watched the 2005 version as well. I went back to back
Oh,
from
yeah.
the 33 to the 2005. I just showed them the King Kong scenes just so they could see the difference.
Right, right. Oh, that's so cool. You're educating them in special effects.
Well, yeah. Well, we were
That's
watching.
awesome.
Well, this is what it was. You know, I have a TV in my car. Excuse me. And we were watching Monsters Inc. And Monsters Inc. There was a place they were going called Harryhausen's, and Harryhausen is Ray Harryhausen, who's a famous special effects guy. It was like a shout out in the movie to Ray Harryhausen because obviously Monsters Inc. was a animated movie,
Right.
And so I was explaining to them who Ray Harryhausen was, and I said, "Well, I'm going to show you guys some old school animation so you
Right.
get a chance to look at
Right.
it." And so I played them King Kong, and they were fucking howling laughing. They thought it was so stupid. They were like, "Oh my God!" Like there it is. But see, you got to get a video of it. See if you can pull a video of the first time that King Kong sees Fay Wray.
Harryhausen
so stupid.
was the king of stop motion animation.
Yeah.
And he did King Kong. He did some of those Sinbad movies, and
It was so.
he actually
bad.
did I think one of the last one he did was Clash of the Titans in like
Here it is.
1981.
Look how stupid it
Yeah,
looks.
it's got the strobing.
And it's
Yeah.
obvious that they're not in the same plane. You know, like him and her, they're not in the same place. Like, and then they had the head. There was the big head that wasn't the same thing. It wasn't
Right.
claymation animation. It was like a big mechanized face where the mouth opened and
Right.
shut. And then they went to this thing. Like, look how fake it looks.
I don't know. I just sort of ignore it, and I still get into it. Look at the
Oh,
lighting,
yeah.
though. Look how good the lighting is, man.
Well, for 1933, this was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, people couldn't believe it. Like, see, they would go to this. This was the machine that the mouth would just open and close. And then Fay Wray was screaming and yelling. And even the style of acting they did was so different. The way they talked then. Well, what kind of a film are we going to make here?
You know, it was like the opposite of a lot of acting you see in like American indie films now, where almost like people have no energy, and it's
Right.
like they have no acting. Everyone's just walking around with a blank face.
Yeah.
You know, here they really overdid it. They put a lot of energy into it.
Well, I think that was reminiscent, or it was an after effect, rather, of doing things on stage with no film, with no microphones.
Ah, interesting.
Because
That
when
makes
they
sense.
when they used to have no microphones, you used to have to project, and
Right.
so you would have to talk like that, so
Right.
the back of the room could hear you.
Right, and be more physical
Yeah.
with your motions
Yeah.
and stuff. That makes sense.
And so 1933, you got to think, well, they've only been doing movies for like a couple decades back then.
Yeah.
Especially movies where people got to talk.
Not even really. Yeah.
When was the first silent movie? Or
I think in the teens. Yeah.
silent?
I think in the teens.
I think it was the 1800s.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I feel like 1800 was the first silent movie.
But talkies came in the 20s, I think, or the teens.
Something like
I
that,
think.
yeah. So 1933, it was all really, really new.
Wouldn't that be
Here we
cool?
go. 1891. Wow.
Until 1927, when the first talkie was.
So that's incredible. So you're talking about
talkies
6
Yeah,
years.
6.
6 years of talkies before King Kong came out.
Yeah.
So they really didn't have it. I mean, that's like a 2011 movie. I mean, think about that.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be cool? I think it would be so cool to go back in time and to try to be like an actor in those times, and like
Oh
you know,
my God.
be in the silent movies, and then
crush
and
it.
then, and then get in talkies. I mean, it was just.
You would know so much. You would go
Yeah.
back in time. They would think of you as just like this wise genius.
Oh, I didn't think of
How
it
do you
that way.
know
I thought
so
about
much?
actually just living back then, like if you were born back then,
Well,
and
people
living back then.
I wonder how much of a representation, how accurate the representation of people were in those films as to like what they were really like in real life.
oh yeah,
You know,
no idea.
it's hard when you see people talking like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Say, Mister, who are you?
Yeah.
You know, you don't get a sense of what they really were like.
Yeah, that's interesting.
They might have been. I think they were pretty savage.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I think if you look at, there's a bunch of stuff that happens in those movies that you don't see today, like in movies, or you definitely don't see on television shows. First of all, like domestic abuse.
Oh yeah.
Men just smack the fuck out of women all the time in those movies.
Even in like the original movie Footloose, there are scenes where the main girl is getting the shit kicked out of her by her boyfriend.
by her boyfriend,
Yeah,
right?
and
yeah.
even today, if that was happening, they wouldn't actually show it. You know what I mean?
Maybe,
you
but
know,
it wouldn't be like
they would-
Footloose.
It wouldn't even be in the right. It wouldn't even be in the story.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's interesting because I think when you look at something from like 1933, even though I don't think that's exactly how they behaved, it gives you a window into the culture. It gives
Oh,
you
yeah.
this bizarre view of people from a completely different era.
Yeah, I mean, watch Gone with the Wind, and you'll be like, "Wow,
Oh,
this is like the
yeah.
most racist movie
So
ever
fucking
made."
racist.
It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, there's a lot of those.
How is that? How are people not talking about this?
Well, you know what else is racist as fuck, man? Peter Pan.
Really?
Yeah, Peter Pan, the original Peter Pan cartoon. I was playing it for my kids. And we were like, whoa, like about Native Americans.
Oh
about
yeah, no,
Native...
I've seen some of those cartoons.
Oh,
It's
my
like-
God.
It's angering and embarrassing. You
Yeah.
know? It's like you're like, wow,
Yeah.
and that was the normal shit that everybody saw. Yeah.
The old Popeyes are great, too. I've been watching the
Those are
old
great
Popeyes.
cartoons.
They are great.
especially the black and white ones. Those are like
But they're
amazing.
so violent.
violent as hell.
And Bluto
very,
is
and
always
creative.
trying to rape
Yeah.
Olive Oil.
Yeah, literally like raper. Yeah,
yeah.
like kidnapper.
Yep, and raper.
raper.
Yeah, they don't show his hips thrusting, but
Right.
apparently everything else is in there. Like
Yeah.
he's grabbing her and she's
Yeah.
screaming. He's pulling her away.
Yeah. He doesn't even talk. He just grunts and
Yeah.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah, but the violence is so prevalent. It's like Jesus Christ. Cartoons were all about violence back
Yeah.
then.
And they were great.
Well, the weird thing is you can still watch them, but you could never make them. Like you could still watch
Oh,
Warner
yeah.
Brothers cartoons. You could still watch Wile E. Coyote and
Right,
Bugs Bunny, but you could never make a cartoon like that today and
I
put it on
guess.
television.
I mean, it would have to be a niche market, I guess. You know.
Well, it wouldn't be for children.
No, not for kids.
But isn't that
They probably
amazing?
would've- Yeah.
That was what we grew up with.
Yeah. Well, look at how like some schools, you know, they're not supposed to play dodgeball anymore. It's like 'cause it's too dangerous. You know?
Well, we're becoming
like-
pussies. They're giving
Yeah.
kids participation
Yeah.
trophies. The fuck is that? There's it sucks to lose. Okay, that's how you get better.
Yeah.
You can't keep your
And
kid from bad feelings.
and the lower income kids who grow up lower income, they don't have that issue because
Mm-hmm.
they're like, you know, they're still barefoot and it'll be a 5-year-old kid riding an adult 10-speed, you know, with no helmet on. You know, it's like that's like when I lived way out in Queens, you'd see that shit all the time. You know, like
Yeah.
you know, Latino kid just literally like 4 years old and he's on a 10-speed, no shoes, just cruising down the fucking
Where's
street.
his parents?
Yeah, you don't see them anywhere.
Yeah,
it's
just
just
let
like
that kid out
but
the
he's
door.
fine. Yeah,
Jesus, most of them come back alive.
yeah.
It's just about numbers.
Yeah, and he was good, you know. That'd be like an adult riding like a 10-foot bicycle.
Well,
you
New
know?
York is interesting in that way that you get to see so many different styles of parenting, so many different styles of just living, all jammed into one area,
Yeah,
stacked on top of each other, different boroughs, but all in
Yeah.
the sort of same central location.
Yeah, it's not as diverse as it used to be. It's really becoming a boring kind of city. It's
Really?
Yeah, and
What's happening?
I deal with that some in my book here, where it's like you go to, like one block will literally have, there's a CVS right next to a Rite Aid, and then a block away there's a Walgreens, and then there's like 5 banks like on that block, and that's all there is, you know. And it's turning that way like everywhere. It's like it's become such a wealthy city. It's just become
That's
It's become
interesting.
boring, you know. Like even like some, you know, like when I look at L.A. now and New York, L.A. to me seems in many ways more diverse than New York does.
Really?
Because, I think an apartment in L.A. is probably half, 50% cheaper than what it is in New York, if not more.
Oh, okay. So
And
it's just
so-
sort of priced everybody out.
Yeah, it's classism, basically. So it's like the only people, I know doctors in New York City who live in Jersey because they can't afford to live in New York City.
Whoa.
So it's like, it's because the finance people make more money than anybody.
Right.
Isn't
that funny?
Yeah.
All they're doing is moving numbers around.
I know.
They
Yeah.
steal
I talked
them
to
up.
guys because I finally
They steal the numbers.
Because I was always like, what do these guys do? And then I finally realized that they make money. Like you do comedy, and then people come to the show, and you get paid. Like that's a service you provide. But those finance guys, they make money. That's all they do. They don't do anything. They just find a way to make more money. That's all they do.
Well, they don't even make it. They just
they don't
move
physically
it.
make it. Yeah, they move it around.
They move it around, but take some for themselves.
Yeah.
Giant chunks of it.
Yeah.
We made a big deal today. What'd you
Yeah.
do? You moved ones and zeros from
Yeah.
non-physical place to another non-physical
Yeah.
place.
It's crazy. But
Yeah.
they make all the fucking money. Yeah.
And a lot of them are fucking barbarians. I used to work out with a lot of these guys that became stock market guys. They became stockbrokers back in Boston, and they were fucking animals. They were savages. And then I ran into one of them, and he was wearing a suit and tie, and he looked great. And I was like, "What are you doing? Like, what the fuck?" He goes, "Hey, I'm stockbroking now. I'm a stockbroker." And he was just making all this money in the stock market and just doing coke and punching people. And
Yeah,
like, whoa.
It's a crazy business. I mean, there's like no morals at all in that business, and a lot of the shit they do, I think, is illegal in other countries. And
Well, it should be. I mean,
Yeah.
look at what the infamous market crash of 2008. I mean, what was that all about? It's about
nobody got
inflated-
prosecuted. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy if you look at, I mean, how much of the same laws are still in place that allowed them to do that?
Yeah.
And allowed them to set up the whole subprime mortgage loan crisis thing. It's like when you look at what that actually was, it's like a gigantic pump and dump scheme.
Yeah.
But for the whole country.
yeah.
It's just crazy that no one went to jail. No one. You
Well,
have
that's
to do
another
like
thing. Where
Bernie.
both parties,
Yeah.
both parties are they're not that different. They get marketed as they're so different, but they're really not that different. They basically work for whoever has the most money.
I think socially
And
they're
that's
different.
it. Socially, that's the
Yeah.
only area they're different. But
That's-
but financially, most of them are just corrupt, feeding the same shit. They don't work for people. They work for mega corporations that have billions and billions and billions.
Well, that's the only way you can get into the White House unless you're a Donald Trump guy.
Yeah.
Unless you have your own money where you can finance your
I
own
don't even
campaign.
think he has enough money to do it. I don't even think he does.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
What makes
I
you
think
say that?
I think the money that you're talking from these corporations is much more than he can have as an individual. And I think the biggest reason that he's been able to get his message out so much is how much free press he gets.
Right. That's a good point.
It's like the news is always taking. Oh, I don't know. How does he keep being ahead? I'm like, you're all he fucking shows.
Right.
It's like he's getting hours of free advertisement every fucking day. I've never seen a political campaign where they actually go, breaking news, Trump's giving a speech in Iowa, and then they just show the whole fucking speech for an hour.
Yeah. Well, they're hoping he says something wacky about Muslims.
And that's never happened before, where they actually just show an entire campaign speech, and then like, wow, I wonder why the other Republicans don't have that much votes, because you didn't even fucking show 30 seconds of their campaign speech.
To me, it seems like, and I try not to watch this stuff too much until it like gets down to the last couple of months of the campaign.
Right.
But it feels like that what Donald Trump's doing is sprinting. Like there's a marathon going on, and he just came out of the gate running as fast as he can. And like he's winning. Like, but you can't keep that up.
Yeah.
You can't keep that up.
Yeah.
And the way he's talking, it's almost like he's trolling. Like when he said he wants to ban
definitely.
Muslims coming into
Definitely.
America, I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about, man? You can't. What?
Yeah.
You're gonna ban Muslims? All of them?
Yeah.
Just you can't have a religion because wait a minute, what percentage of the people we're talking about that are blowing things up and shooting people?
Yeah.
Is it even 1/100th of 1%?
Probably not.
No,
Yeah.
it's not
Probably
even.
Probably not.
Like, but you're gonna ban all the Muslims that are coming.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
the fuck?
Yeah.
And
he's
then
out of his fucking mind.
And then he did a speech about it. They asked him, and he goes, "Well, what I'm talking about wouldn't even have to be for that long." Like, what are you talking about? Like,
Yeah.
he goes, just until we figure out what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
Like, he's just speaking in these sort of vague terms. It's like, I feel like he's trolling. I don't feel like he's a real serious candidate.
Yeah, you almost hope it's like in 6 months he's gonna withdraw and just say the entire thing was like some kind of bizarre performance art thing, just like, making fun of our entire media and
a big Joaquin Phoenix sort of a thing.
Political arena, it's just because the news media is just I mean, I don't like them. I think they're fucking horrendous. Period.
Well, what they are is a business.
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm saying. That's what people, and those people don't realize. Yeah,
they're an entertainment business.
Yeah,
and that's what's entertaining. A guy like Donald Trump is entertaining.
Right, but they should be labeled. Yeah, they shouldn't be allowed to be called news.
You're right. Well,
and I think that happened to Fox News in Canada.
Really?
I think they were not allowed to be broadcast in Canada unless they were labeled as entertainment and not news.
What? Really?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That's just because
someone told me that recently.
The girls that they have on that show, they're too distracting.
Oh, okay.
Too hot. Too many.
But I think
she-demons.
I think that should be the way with 90% of the news. Because it's just it's not about giving you real news. It's about getting viewers.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really interesting things that are going on in the world. They're not going to cover it because it's not going to. It's not going to attach to your reptilian brain. Yeah, it's not going to. Your mind is
just
not
like when things are slower. If there's some missing 8-year-old white girl, that'll be the news story for 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, how many brown kids get killed every day? Nothing. Yeah, one little cute white girl with pigtails gets scooped up in a van.
Yeah. They're finally doing that a little bit less now, but for decades that was the main news thrust.
It works.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, this Donald Trump thing, it fucking works. You have that guy on TV, you're going to get people to pay attention.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's sad, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I think today it's sort of opened the door for all these alternative news sources.
Yeah, you have to, if you want to get real news, you really have to put effort in. It's not going to just show up on your television.
Well, the internet is
look for it.
A fantastic resource now because you can get all sorts of unbiased perspectives and perspectives from all these different sides.
You can also get misinformation, so you got to be careful. But there's a lot of stuff you can get all over the world. You can go online and watch news from other countries and see how they report.
One of the cool things about New York, though, as opposed to L.A., is that New York is not a showbiz-based city.
Correct. Yeah, it's more diverse that way. But I tell you, more and more and more, it just feels like a finance city.
I keep hearing that, man. You're not the only guy that told me this.
We had Giuliani for 8 years, and then we had Bloomberg for 12. Now, legally, you're only allowed to be a mayor for 8 maximum. And then Bloomberg was like, well, I want to change things. And so they did a new vote, and it was just amongst, I think, other politicians, and he got voted to be allowed to go a third term.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So and
why can't Obama do that?
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, Bloomberg did it, and Bloomberg was interesting because he's a Republican and very conservative on some issues, especially financially, but then on some other issues, he wasn't. So he was good and bad, and Giuliani did good and bad things too. I mean, for the arts, Giuliani was horrendous.
Was he?
He was closing down. They found a loophole from some law from the 1800s about how you can't have dancing. You have to have a cabaret license if anyone's going to dance at a bar. So if a couple of people if you wanted to put on, if there's a bar and they have an extra room and you want to put on a comedy show or something and someone's dancing or a sketch comedy show and someone's dancing in a skit, they can shut you down. Yeah, so he started acting laws like that.
So he started actually enforcing them?
They started enforcing that, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the purpose behind that? Like, why did he want to do that? What was his motivation?
I don't know, but he also closed a lot of the strip clubs. He enacted this. I think it was either the 60-40 law or the 40-60 law. And for a while, there was a comedy club that was so basically, if you had a strip club, he changed the laws so that now only 40% of your place can be a strip club. 60% has to be another business. That was a lot of
what?
Yeah, that was a lot of so.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like you could sell hats?
Yeah. Or you just have like I remember for a while when they closed some of the porno theaters in Times Square. These are places that go back pre-internet. Where you actually go to a movie theater to watch a porno because that used to be the only place you can fucking watch one, and it's just bunch of depressed guys, jerking off or waiting to jerk off, and so I went to one of those after they had closed the porn, and it was a short period. I think it was only like a few months or something, and they were showing. So they were just showing like old John Wayne movies and shit. Like,
what?
And there were still just like 30 guys in there. Just most of these are guys on edge. This is like 20 years ago. Guys on edge and like homeless guys just sitting there. It was maybe the most depressing thing I had seen. Where I think guys were thinking they were still like I was wondering like, do they think they're still going to show the pornos because it says it's a John Wayne movie, or are they just like? They're just holding on, hopefully that like, well, maybe they'll sneak a porno in there or something.
Oh,
but
God.
It was one of the most depressing things I had seen. But yeah, so they had this 60-40 law, and I remember there was a comedy club for a while that was in one of them. I can't remember if it was called Stringfellows or another one. It was on around 21st Street and Broadway, which is a business and residential area. It's not like it's an area where there's just tons of porn. So
Right.
you have like, expensive apartments and other business stuff. And then, oh, here's a porno place.
Mm-hmm.
And a strip club, And so basically 60% of it became a comedy club. And, but they still had strippers working there. And it was such a weird feeling. But I'd never felt more safe at a comedy club because they still had all the bouncers from the strip club there. So
That's
it's all these
hilarious.
guys in like tuxedos, these huge dudes in tuxedos. And the stage was like really high, so that because it's designed to be looking up at strippers.
And people can't grab you.
Yeah, yeah. so, and then downstairs were lockers where the strippers were like changing and shit. So you'd be like seeing them down there and.
How bizarre.
Yeah, and then you just go through like a little swivel door, and then you're in the strip club. But that didn't last too long. But they had to do that for a while because they enacted these new laws and they had to do something.
That is so strange. So this is a new law, or was it an
No,
old law
this
that
was
they reinforced?
this was when Giuliani. I think the 60-40 was a new law that he enacted.
But
Yeah.
that doesn't even make any sense. But is it 60% in terms of revenue, or is it in terms of physical space?
I think it was physical space.
Here it is right here. A legacy of the Giuliani area in New York,
Yeah.
the 60-40 rule forces any adult business to devote more than 40% of its square footage to adult entertainment.
There you go.
No more than 40% to adult entertainment, meaning the strip clubs must fill the other 60% with non-adult business endeavors.
Yeah.
This is why the Penthouse Executive Club has Robert's Steakhouse and New York Dolls has a bikini bar front lounge. What an asshole!
Yeah. So
what an asshole!
So
to think
basically,
that he can enforce that.
most of them just fucking went out of business. And they're
Yeah.
gone. They're just gone.
What a shit!
But I remember
rule.
going to New York in like '81, and it was so cool. You would see Cats, the big Broadway show Cats, and then right next to it, the Sperminator, and it was just like I just love that variety,
Right.
that dichotomy of seeing, the grungiest shit next to the highest end shit, and it was exciting, But now it's just corporate.
Well,
chain.
Times Square.
Yeah, but it's almost like Times Square is now all just chain places.
Yeah.
But now that's becoming. You just see it spreading throughout the whole city.
Really?
Yeah. Like I overhear college kids, and they're excited. They're like, "Oh yeah, my dorm's so great because there's a Panera Bread right next to it, and there's a Quiznos, right nearby." And I'm just like, "What the fuck?" It's like it's hard to even get a good slice of pizza in New York anymore.
Really?
Because much harder. Two things happened.
60-40.
No, not the 60.
40% porn.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be cool. Your business has to be 40%
You have
porn.
to have 40% tits.
Yeah. So what happened with the pizza is, well, first of all, Manhattan and half of Brooklyn, hardly any of the people that live there are actually from New York anymore. So you have people moving from the suburbs, so they don't really know good pizza.
So they're not really New Yorkers. They're just kind of living there because they're making
Yeah.
a lot of money now.
Yeah. So instead of like, how LA is very transient, everyone, like I was voted most beautiful in high school, so I'm going to go to LA and try to become an actor or an actress.
Right.
Well, New York is now, I got good grades in school, and my dad works for this firm, and that firm hired me in New York, so that's why I'm in New York. So it's changed a lot. Like almost every girl I've gone out with in the past 7-8 years is either finance or a corporate lawyer or something like that, and because that's who you meet. It's like I don't meet anyone like here in LA. Everyone I meet is doing something in arts or entertainment or trying to, and in New York, that happens maybe 5-10% of the time.
How bizarre. So it's just a gigantic financial city now.
Yeah,
in a lot
and
of
that's
ways.
what Bloomberg wanted, because that's his background, and his goal was to make it the financial center of the world, and I think he kind of did, because when I first started doing comedy in New York in the late 80s and early 90s, because I moved to New York in 87, there was always, the Wall Street guys, but that was down in one area in Wall Street, and now that business is throughout the whole city,
Wow.
So it's grown, and
it's going to be hard to reverse.
Yeah, I don't.
Like you can sort of gentrify an area, but taking an area and making it like more local and independent, and geting like artists and stuff in. Good luck.
Yeah, because I remember even years ago, comics, and and some people might say, "Oh, this is sexist," or whatever, but I think it's just guy locker room talk. Would have arguments, who's got hotter chicks, New York or L.A. I remember
that's definitely sexist.
Yeah,
and we don't allow that on this show.
Yeah, because you can't talk about feelings. Yeah. So, anyways, comics. We used to, you travel around. So you always have the argument: who's got the hotter chicks, New York and L.A.
Canada.
And some Canada's very hot, chick. So they like it used to be like it was always close, and then some guys would always agree with L.A. Some guys would say New York. And now, I think if you would have to place the vote, I think L.A. would win easily, because New York, you don't see the variety of, like, you used to see women from, all over the world. So the everywhere on the planet, you'd see women, beautiful women from everywhere. And it was just, you don't see this variety anywhere. But in New York, you would see it. Now, you don't see it that much. And, you don't even see a lot of interesting fashion walking around the streets of New York. You used to always see that, because if everyone's working in finance, that's not the most fashionable group of people. They're not interested in that.
The worst when you in terms of like artistic people, in terms of like creative people. Like if that's going to take over, that's going to be the worst for that.
You mean for hotness, you mean?
No, I mean for having diversity, for having unique people, for having artistic people. Like that, like there's a lot of industries that could move in where things could be kind of cool. Like if the tech industry moves in, like San Francisco is a good example.
Right.
A lot of money in San Francisco, and a lot of people are complaining, but a lot of weird, cool shit is there too. Still, like a lot of freaky people. It's interesting. A lot of the people in tech are unique and odd and eccentric. You're not getting that in finance. You're not getting the creative types.
No, and often when you meet them, and a lot of them are nice too. They usually kind of heckle themselves. Say they're boring, they work at a boring job or whatever. But it's
what are the clubs like now?
Well, the clubs are doing well because you have the city, since it's gotten safer. The tourism is up. And
is it a lot safer?
Oh, much safer than it was 20 years ago. Much safer. Yeah, it's there's not much crime there. There just isn't.
That's incredible.
Yeah, because if one bedroom apartments are anywhere from $500,000 to $1.5 million. And that's a one bedroom that's probably 70% smaller than a one bedroom in LA. It's like a new one bedroom in the Village in New York will be well over $1 million.
Yeah, we thought about, my wife and I thought about getting a place there at one point in time. We're like, maybe we should move to New York. Maybe it'd be a good thing. Maybe we would try something different. We were looking at apartments that were 3-bedroom for $5 million. Like, what the fuck is that?
It's insane. Yeah,
that's crazy. It's an apartment.
You can buy 2 houses in the Hollywood Hills for that.
Yeah, it's a fucking apartment.
So
you don't even have a yard. You don't even have a parking spot.
Yeah, and also those apartments, unlike if you buy a house, they have the building monthly maintenance fees.
Oh yeah,
which can be easily, $2 to $3 grand a month, and that's just going out the window. So it's like owning and renting at the same time.
You're right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah,
it's like for years I've been thinking about buying a place, and then I'll look for a few months, then I'll get frustrated, I'll quit, and then
why do you want to stay there?
I don't know. I think my folks and my brother, they're in Maryland and D.C., so I kind of want to be close to them. Mm-hmm. And every time I come to L.A., I always, because I lived out here for a couple years in the early 2000s, I keep thinking, oh, maybe I should just move here, So I don't know where to. I'm at the point in my career like I don't know where I want to live. You know.
It was funny. Even Anthony Bourdain, who's like this long-term New Yorker, and who's like, kind of like when I think of New York, I think of guys like him.
Sure, yeah.
He was telling me that he had thought about it many times about living in L.A.
Yeah,
I'm like, really? It's like
I think
people are recognizing that there's like a weird shift that's going on there.
Yeah, well, people, I remember, 15, 20 years ago, the big thing with, there's always been this sort of, love-hate with L.A. and New York. I always noticed, like, it seems like there's always, L.A. comics seem to have a little bit of a fear towards New York comics a little bit, or a little bit sort of like respect toward, I've always noticed, even with like club owners, it's like, or even with actors, you even notice, a New York actor, I mean, that means they know stage, and then even with L.A., it's like, those New York guys, they're getting on real. They're getting on 6-7 times a night. They're just in New York because they just want comedy. They're not interested in other stuff. And I'm like, you guys are really exaggerating things a lot. It's like, first of all, you can't be doing 6 and 7 shows a night every fucking night. It just, once in a while you can do that, but you're going to go fucking crazy if you do that. And then just geographically getting to all those spots on time is not fucking easy to do.
Yeah, unless you got Bill Burr to helicopter you around the city.
Right. So most comics just aren't doing that many. New York City does have more comedy clubs than LA, but and the city's also geographically smaller, so you can't get to them. But if you're doing, let's say you do 4 shows in one night, you're probably going to be spending just to get to those, you're going to need a cab. So you're probably going to be spending, $40 to $50 to $60 a night, and you're probably making $70.
40 to 50 to 60.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So it's like there's not that much. So no, I also think now compared to when I lived here in the early 2000s, the comedy scene in LA has grown. I think it's very healthy here. And I think it's much better. The store is like rocking every night, and
It's on fire.
And they got 3 rooms, and they're all great fucking rooms with each one has a different personality to it.
Do you know what's crazy? This year is the first year the store has been profitable in like forever.
Wow,
I
believe it.
This last year, it's crazy.
I mean, Adam's done an amazing
he's
job.
The best. He's the
amazing
best.
fucking job.
I fucking love that guy. It's so cool having a guy who's like the talent coordinator, who's just a regular, like he's my friend.
Yeah,
like I'd hang out with that guy.
It's very rare that anything like that ever happens.
He's the best.
Yeah.
He's the best.
But I mean, of the 2 cities in America, L.A. and New York has the most comics and the best comics.
You know where there's a really underrated scene?
Where?
Denver.
A lot of good comics come out of Denver. I believe that. Yeah, Dan Soder's from there, and can't think of who else right now.
That's Wendy Curtis, one woman.
Right.
She's the best.
Yeah.
She's an animal. That chick. She's owned that place forever. She started working there as a waitress at the Comedy Works.
That's awesome.
And then she established, when she started taking over, she established like a whole system, like an open mic system.
Right.
A system of taking people from open micers to making them MCs, to making them middle acts, to making them headliners. She's got like locally made headliners.
That's awesome.
Like legit comics that go on and they go on the road, and it's amazing.
Well, I think that point you bring up is interesting, because I think, years ago, there were like a few main cities if you wanted to be different or do something entertainment. There's pretty much New York and L.A. And now it's like or even if like, let's say, if 40 years ago, if you wanted to be gay, you would move to one of the big cities.
Right.
But now it's like every city has their gay communities. Even like little town, Buffalo has a big gay community.
Don't you think that's the internet is a big part of that?
I do.
Find each other?
I do. Yeah. And I think but I think that the fact that other places have gotten better is also another reason New York has gotten more generic.
Right.
Because if you're a freak, if you're a weirdo, an outsider, people would be like, move to New York, move to the big city, get away from the small town. Now you can find cool shit in your small town.
Right.
So it's not attracting that as much as the interesting people as it used to for that reason, which is great, But then the finance thing, and then with everything being so expensive, I actually think L.A. has a lot of interesting people moving to it and living in L.A. I think L.A. has a lot of cool shit going on in entertainment and in art.
I think so. Stand-up comedy, I think it's the best place right now. I think it's the best place as far as the amount of talent, the amount of like really high-level people there, and the amount of like really good clubs.
Yeah,
I think it's the best.
It's
spot.
hard. Yeah, I couldn't say which city's better. They're both excellent. New York still has more clubs, And
They're a different kind of club, though. They're smaller.
oh, they're much smaller.
Stage.
It's much smaller, much smaller.
That smaller stage also lends itself to a different style of comedy.
It does. It does.
More personal, more like, where are you from, sir? Like that
less
kind of
physical.
shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, less movement.
Yeah.
Small stages.
LA comics in general, I mean, these are big generalizations, but in general, a little more physical. Yeah. So it's, you know, it's interesting. I don't know. But I think all three of the main clubs are doing quite well in LA. You know?
Yeah. No, they definitely are.
And
the Laugh Factory's not doing that good.
Oh, it isn't? Okay.
Yeah, you can go to the Laugh Factory on many a night, and it's half filled.
Really?
Not
Interesting.
even.
Because
Yeah.
when I lived here in the early 2000s, that was like the happening club.
Yeah, it's
and the
dropped
Improv
off.
and the store were kind of struggling.
The store and the Improv are killing it right now.
Yeah.
The Improv has 2 clubs now.
I know. I did their little room
Yeah.
when I was here last month. It was great.
Yeah, it's really cool how they've set that up. That's a smart move, the way they've done that. That's how it used to be a long time ago.
Oh, really?
That's actually where Ari Shaffir started off his powerful Ari Shaffir t-shirt.
I know. I saw that. Good
Ari
graphics.
Shaffir started off his This Is Not Happening show.
Oh, I
there.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay,
He
cool.
started off in the Annex, which is like this little side room.
Right.
And he nurtured it. Like that show that he has on Comedy Central is a genuine hard work success story.
Yeah.
Because what Ari did is he had this concept, and this concept was this will be a good way to generate new material if instead of being under the pressure of like punchline,
Sure.
doing it in a stand-up sense, let's do something where you just tell stories.
Right.
Like, here's a crazy fucked up story that happened to me, and out of that story, maybe there'll be some jokes. Like, maybe there'll be something that I could mine
That's
out
cool.
of that.
That's
and
cool.
so he did that, and then eventually went to do it on the web, did it on the web, and then eventually Comedy Central picked it up, and now it's on its 3rd season.
Right. That's
It's
great.
killing it.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And it's just a matter of like growing, you know, putting it together, nurturing it, it grows, nurturing it more, it grows.
Well, that's the other thing. Just being able to have space, like LA, like New York. There's no space. Here, there's space. You can grow.
Exactly.
You know, even if you look at podcasting. I mean, I'm not an expert on this, but it seems to me that it started basically in LA. It's an LA kind of movement, the podcasting. If you look at the big podcasts
for
in
comics,
comedy, you know, it's LA. I remember like when I first started coming out here in like probably like late 90s, early 2000s, it was weird. It's like comics would come. The story like about New York comics, they'd move out here and they'd basically just stop doing comedy because it was too hard to get on, weren't enough places to get on. And then before you know it, they're just going out every once in a while or every week, you know, getting drunk and doing karaoke. That was like the thing.
What?
Yeah. It seemed like there was a lot of comics who were always going out doing karaoke. Like when I first moved here, came out and they're like,
who the fuck were you hanging out with?
I don't know. There's a lot of fucking comics that were doing that, and I'm like,
I didn't know
no,
any
I
of
don't-
those
I'm like,
people.
no, I don't want to fucking do karaoke. I want to do comedy. I'm not coming out here to do that shit, you know. But then at some point, it's like, and also there's more free time out here. It's like New York, you're constantly I'm not talking as a comic, just as a person. You're constantly rushed.
Why?
It's just a busy city. It's so congested. It's like it's hard to relax. You know, here you can relax. You got space. You can get privacy. You can relax. Like when people in New York go on vacation, they usually want to do something boring. When people in LA go on vacation, they want to do something exciting.
Ecotourism.
You know what I mean? So
Paragliding.
yeah. So there's more, but you know that I really like, and the audiences are a little different between New York and here, but New York really only has, even though it has like probably 15 comedy clubs, there's probably only about 3 that are like actually good.
I think
clubs.
it has a lot more than 15. I think New York has a shitload of comedy clubs.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think there's more than 100.
No, not full-time comedy clubs. No way.
Find out, Jamie.
Yeah.
How many comedy clubs
it's
are in New
20.
York?
I don't know. It's a lot though.
Hedge your bets. What do you say? What's the over-under?
I'm gonna go 19.
I'm going 50.
Okay.
I went with 100 just to be cocky. But I'm going to say there's 50.
But LA has, I mean, if you look at LA, they probably have like 8 now, right?
Well, in the greater LA area, there's quite a few. Like, you know what's really good? I just started doing the new Haha Cafe in North Hollywood. I did
They
it
have a
last
new one
Thursday
now?
night. Yeah. Dude. I did
I
it
gotta
last
check it
Thursday
out.
night, and now I'm doing it this Thursday night again.
awesome.
It's fucking incredible.
All right, I
what
gotta
a
swing
room.
down there.
It's perfectly set up. Low ceiling, packed in,
Oh, awesome.
great stage
Because I used to do
size.
that years ago, that place.
I did the old one.
Yeah, every time I went there, the stage was in a different spot. Like the guy was constantly redoing it.
Well,
So I gotta check that out.
The old one is just down the street from the new one. Just
Okay.
down the street.
Is it still there?
Yeah.
Or no?
Yeah, it's still there.
So there's 2 of them.
Yeah, but one of them's a haha, one of them's something else now. It's like a different
Same
comedy
owner or
club.
no?
I think he still owns it. He leases it out to somebody.
Cool.
But the new
I'll check
spot
that
is
out.
a gem. The new spot is one of the best clubs in the city.
Awesome.
It's perfect. I was like, wow, this place is fucking hopping.
That's cool.
Yeah, I did it last Thursday, and I was like, wow, I'm sold, man. I will nurture this place, keep this place going.
That's awesome.
When I prepared for my last Comedy Central special last August, I was doing the Ha Ha all the time.
Oh, cool.
I was doing it like every Tuesday night for like a few months.
And you were doing like a long set, right?
Yeah. Because you can fuck around there. You can
That's
do
great.
long sets there. Then
That's
there's
great.
flappers, which I
haven't done that yet in
but
Burbank, yeah.
I've done it once. It was really good.
Cool.
But, you can do that. The Ice House, which I'm doing
Right.
tonight. I have a 10
Oh,
o'clock
cool.
show there tonight.
Awesome.
That place is the shit.
Yeah, everyone loves that. I haven't been there yet.
You haven't been?
Not yet, no.
Are you around tonight?
I don't think I can tonight.
You
What time's
son
the show?
of a bitch.
Yeah.
Letting people down.
I
10
know.
o'clock.
Okay.
But tonight it's sold out. It's Greg Fitzsimmons,
Cool.
Tony Hinchcliffe, Bert Kreischer,
Cool.
and who the fuck else?
I remember-
Al Madrigal, too.
Oh,
Ooh.
cool. That's
Hell of
good,
a
too.
show. Hell of a show, God damn it.
Yeah.
But the Ice House, the oldest comedy club in the world. The known world.
Is it
Maybe
really?
the universe. The whole universe. The oldest comedy club
Older
in the
than the
universe.
Improv.
Yes.
Wow.
It's the oldest place. It was a legitimate ice house, like where you would get ice back when
Yeah.
people didn't have freezers.
Yeah.
Or you get a chunk of ice and you put it in the ice box, and that's how you
Right.
keep your food perishables
Yeah.
cold. And then in the 1960s, the very early 60s, it became a comedy club. So it's been a legitimate comedy club for more than 50 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's the best. That's my favorite place on the planet, next to the store.
Yeah.
The store's different in a different place because it's like this crazy psycho energy gym where you're fucking around, you're working, and and you'll bring up there's like a million great comics. You're bringing up Ian Edwards and this guy and that guy, and it's like it's just you look at the lineup and it's like 13 murderers in a row.
Yeah. No, it's great. I enjoy doing the audiences are always. It seems like they're always like I can't quite put it into words what the differences are, but they're always the West Coast in general, like a little bit different than East Coast audiences, but. The
East Coast seem to be more cynical.
Yeah, more cynical, the little less squeamish, like the darker shit a little bit more sometimes, but not always,
Well, I think the cold and the being packed in and just everybody just jammed on top of each other like fuck you.
Yeah.
There's more like anger there.
Yeah. Well, or they let it out more. Sometimes. Sometimes I think there's more anger in L.A., but it's more pent up.
There's something about New York, though, when I stay there, whenever I'm staying there and I'm in a hotel and I look out the window and I just see this insane construction, this thing that people have put together, this modern beehive of cement and steel and glass. I'm like, this is amazing, especially at night. Like I last time I was there, I spent a good solid 2 hours just sitting at the desk in my hotel room, looking out the window, just looking around.
Where'd you stay?
I don't remember which one. Oh, last time I was at the Trump Tower. But I stayed a bunch of different. It's Soho.
Yeah,
I
the Soho one. Okay,
a bunch of different places. But I forget which place I was at. I was at one place once where I was in the middle of like all these buildings, and it was like freaky. Like you look out the window, you're looking at somebody else, and they're looking out the window, and there's fucking buildings stacked on top of buildings.
Yeah, it's hard to get privacy.
Well, there's almost. I mean, how many people watch people fuck in New York? I mean, it's got to be really common.
Yeah.
There was a Radio Lab podcast about that. It was really strange. It was about this woman, and she was telling the tale of how she watched this couple, and she would watch this couple all the time, and it made her kind of feel weird about her own relationship because this couple, they were young, and they would fuck all the time, and they didn't have the curtains drawn. They would just, and she would just watch these people fuck. And then the guy got sick. And then, like, the family would be over, and she was watching this guy, like, wither away, and then he died. And then they carried him out of the building, and as
she saw this.
Yeah, over the course of years.
I would have stopped watching a long time ago.
So she kind of, it was her window. Like, that was her view. I mean, it's like I look out my window, and there's a tree that I like to look at.
Right. Yeah, that couple.
So she ran downstairs as they were taking the body out and putting it in a hearse. and she like made eye contact with the girl who lived with the guy, and they'd taken the body out, and she just felt like such a creep, but she also felt like she knew them.
Yeah,
it was like
she had a relationship.
Yeah.
With them. They didn't with her, but she did with them.
Yeah, like that's a uniquely New York thing to happen, because anywhere else, like you'd be a fucking creep. Like you'd have to be some guy with.
Well, she's still a fucking creep, but yes, I see what you're saying.
Is she? I don't think she is. I think she's just looking at her world. Look, I don't think it's her responsibility to look away when some people are fucking and they're 30 yards outside of her window, and they're in a window themselves.
Yeah.
They're on display.
Yeah.
What are we pretending?
Well, you're right. Windows are meant to be looked through.
Looked out of and looked into.
Yeah, you're correct.
It works both ways. I don't think she's a creep at all. I think she's looking at her world. But it was interesting how she was really good at narrating this and explaining
Sounds great.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a cool movie.
Well, I don't know about that. It'd depress the fuck out of you, I think, because in the end, the dude dies.
Yeah.
There's no heroes in that movie. But she ran downstairs and like made eye contact with the people, and they were like, "What the fuck are you?" And she's like, "Oh God, I realized like they don't know me, but I know them, and I'm a creep. I got to get out of here." And then she took her off. But that's super common in New York, where people like, "Oh, there's the guy. There's the guy who practices the trumpet. There's the guy who jerks off."
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I wish I had. I don't have any neighbors like that, but that sounds awesome.
Do you look out your window?
Yeah, there's definitely a building. There's like an expensive building right behind mine, and
you look at it?
You can just see everyone's stuff, but I hardly ever look out. Yeah.
But why wouldn't you? You don't look out at those people?
Because they'll be able to see me.
And it freaks you out?
Yeah, then it's like...
Just put your world champion hat on.
Yeah, then especially if I get recognized, and then they'll be blogging about you or
tweeting about you. Hey, you're that guy from that show.
Yeah, why are you looking at our fucking apartment?
Hey, what show are you from again, man?
Yeah.
What show was that?
Yeah, so
are you a world champion guy?
Oh, I lost my thing.
Yeah, unplug? Yeah, that thing, we got to fix that, Jamie. That's happening way too often.
I got
Bam.
it. I got it. It's all good.
Look at you on the ball. Yeah, that's a weird way of living.
Yeah.
Stacked on top of everybody.
Yeah.
Like everywhere else in the country, pretty much, other than, Chicago and some other spots, most people are they have a house and a little bit of a yard, and then there's another house over there and a little bit of a yard.
Yeah, you get some privacy.
It's weird how like they just decide one area is the area. Like everybody get here. It's not like there's a river that has gold salmon swimming through it.
Initially that's what it was. I mean, if you look at almost all big cities, they're usually on some body of water.
Yeah.
But now that's not really why it is. It's just
Well, there's other places that don't have a reason other than the fact that they're cool, but people are flocking to, like Austin, Texas.
Right.
The middle of Texas.
Yeah.
And every time I go there, I'm like, Jesus Christ. Did 1,000 people a day move here for the last 15 years? Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
But that is what's happening there. Like people they keep hearing. Like, I'm fucking up right now by saying Austin's awesome.
Right.
But it is an awesome city.
No, they've been doing that for years, where the people who are from there are like, "Fuck, stop telling people about it."
Yes, exactly.
It's getting too crowded now,
And that's the thing that pulls people there is the university.
Yeah.
Like, that's another thing that pulls people, like-minded people, intelligent people, educated people. And then they're also, like, it's out of all of the areas in Texas, it's the most open-minded, the most diverse.
Right. Yeah, no, there's a lot of good food there, too.
Oh, yeah,
Texas has great food, period.
Fuck, yeah.
I don't think you can get a bad meal in Texas.
You can definitely get a bad meal in Texas.
Really? I haven't had one.
You can do it. I'll get you there.
Okay.
I'll get you one. Do you work in Texas at all?
Yeah.
What clubs do you do? Do you Cap City?
Cap City. I'll do the Moon Tower Festival. Haven't been there in a while, but the club in Dallas or
Addison.
Addison.
Yeah, that's a great club.
Really good club. Yeah.
Houston used to be the shit.
Yeah, years ago, but I don't really go there anymore. I haven't been there in a while. I've done colleges in and around, all over Texas. But
so you still do colleges? That's like a big debate with comics these days. A lot of comedians don't want to do colleges anymore because it's just too difficult, too much politically correct attitude.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with it. I really haven't had a problem. Before I go on, or sometimes before I agree to do it, I ask them, if there's any restrictions. And sometimes there's no restrictions at all. Sometimes there are.
What are the restrictions that you?
Well, usually they never give it to you. They'll be like, well, we want HBO. No, SNL's fine, but not HBO. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean?
Who says that to you?
Yeah, sometimes people running shows or whatever. They'll be
Really?
like, you'll be like, rated R, but not rated X. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? I go, I need specifics.
Yeah.
Like, I go, can I say fuck? Can I say pussy? Can I say? I remember I did a show. This is like early on when I first started. It's probably like 91 or something like that. I did a show. I think Chris Mazzilli booked it, who owns Gotham Comedy Club in New York.
A good dude.
Yeah. And so he was booking a show that was way out in Brooklyn in an all Orthodox Jewish neighborhood. And it was a show where the it was in an Italian restaurant, an Orthodox Jewish, it was a kosher Italian, like seafood restaurant, I think. It was a seafood restaurant.
How is that even possible?
Yeah, so everyone there is Orthodox Jewish, or even they had a fair amount of Hasidic Jewish people there. And the rabbi's in the room, and they had a sheet printed out of all the subjects and words you could and could not say. It was like, don't say schmeckel, don't say sex, don't mention sex, all these fucking things. I'm early on, so it's like, I think I paid $25, and it's like an hour train ride out into Brooklyn. I'm like, fuck it, I'll do that shit. So, and it was, it was not a good show, but I just remember that thing and how, like, okay, they spelled out every fucking thing that you could, that you could not say. So it was very clear. So there's never a controversy.
Right.
So if I do a college, I'm like, what can I say? What can I not say? Can I do any jokes about because I've done Catholic colleges, can I do a joke about abortion? Can I do a joke about gay marriage? I have some bits about gay marriage, and that's with the Catholic Church, that's a big thing. So I'm like I need specifics on subject matter and words. What is it? And I get that, and then everything's fine. But you got to get that shit clear.
But is that fine with you right now? Like if they gave you a list right now and they said, okay, look.
Judah, some I pass on. No, some I pass on. But
like what you passed on?
I can't remember. I think there was a Jewish gig I passed on because it was. I think it was just. I can't remember what it was, but it was for some. It was a very specific group, and it was just. I knew there were like so many things you couldn't. You'd have to give like this. They should have just had a kid playing the flute or something. It's like, don't even have a fucking comedy show. You know what I mean? Have some 10-year-olds tap dance or something.
The kosher place, I wish you took a photo of the rules.
I think I have it somewhere.
Where?
At home? I'm a pack rat, so I'm hoping I have it somewhere. I got to look through my notes.
Please, if you have it, email it to me and I'll put it up on Instagram.
I will. But it was amazing.
that needs to be displayed.
But I understand that, like, even like when you do, if you're doing, like, even with late night talk shows on television, I will usually pass on doing stand up on those. Mm-hmm. And if I can, I will do panel.
Right.
Because in stand up, there are gonna be so many things in my stand up act that where I have to cut something, I'll have to not say a word or a certain subject matter. And I'm like, I don't want to cut that out of my stand up. I don't want to censor my stand up act at all. Like, I want to do zero censorship with it.
Right.
But if I'm doing panel and then want you to do some bits on the couch, it's a little bit of a different dynamic, and it's like I'll more likely do that. I'd rather censor it there than do it in my stand-up act.
Well, it's also interactive.
Right, exactly. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And you're a guest on their show, and these are their rules. So if I know that going in, I'm fine. But with those talk shows, when they want you to, like, oh, can you not say this word on that stand-up bit or not that subject? I'm like, fuck it, I'm out. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing any censorship with my stand-up. Yeah,
so. That's why I would say, like, doing these shows.
So with the colleges,
tell you.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, that's right. Go ahead.
No, they pay a lot. Colleges pay well in general, and I weigh it, and I'm like, all right, if this is gonna be it, this is what it is. Like
right.
I did a show at Princeton a few years ago, and this is a different issue. And it was, a lot of the crowd was like a shitty audience. They were like, not all of them, but a fair amount were very, very spoiled, very entitled, and drunk as shit. And they're heckling. And normally I would just fucking destroy them. But I'm like, if I heckle one of these kids and I fucking rip them to shreds, in my head, I'm thinking, they're going to write a fucking letter. you know, and then you know, nasty letters saying, "Oh, you did all these things," and then they're going to tell all these other colleges, and then I'll like fucking stop working them. So I handled the heckler, but not how I would normally normally handle it.
That is why people don't want to work colleges.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it 100% when people don't want to do that. I usually find a way. So and the ones I've done this past year, I haven't had to censor anything that I do. They've all been really good. So. But that does happen sometimes.
You're also dealing with a lot of people that don't have a lot of real life experience. They're very young.
I've often
idealistic.
said a 50-year-old janitor will have a better sense of humor than a 19-year-old Harvard student. You know, because, you know, first of all, comedy IQ, comedy smarts doesn't necessarily have anything to do with book smarts.
Right.
And real life experience is huge. You know, I sometimes I find college audiences to be almost more narrow-minded than even someone in high school.
Oh, yeah.
Because someone in high school, even though they're a couple years younger than someone in college, they don't have that. Because usually when people get to college, they kind of think they know everything. But in high school, they don't think they know everything.
Right.
But in college, they do. So it's like they can never be wrong.
Well, they're ready to establish themselves as independent adults.
Right.
They're ready, and they're ready to reinforce their ideas on you. Excuse me?
Yeah.
What you're saying is bullshit. And the patriarchy and
but
white privilege.
I also make fun of that shit, you know, when I'll do colleges. You know, if that shit comes up, I make fun of that shit, you know. So
well, that shit is important to make fun of. That's a goddamn cancer thought.
Yeah. Well, that's what that one cartoon in the book is, you know.
I mean, it really is. It's like thought cancer. It's like there's a disease.
Yeah.
This disease of fake progressiveness.
Yeah.
It's really just calling people out on things and finding targets.
Right. Well, it's kind of like when a kid's young and he's first learning about, you know, curse words and dirty words. He's just saying them constantly, doesn't even know what it means. So sometimes when people are trying to like stand up for something, and this is a new thing, this activism is a new thing to them, they don't really know. They may not be that good at it yet, or like their heart might be in the right place, but they're being misguided and they're fucking shit up. You know?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
You know, so that I think, and then sometimes, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where people never think they're wrong. You know, and it's okay to be wrong. You know, like my opinions change on things over the years, and I enjoy listening to people. Like I did a show in Columbus, Ohio, at a comedy club there. I forget. I think it's a Funny Bone or something. I did a show there. It was the weekend that the Trayvon Martin case was going on with George Zimmerman, and it was a show.
A lot of black jokes.
No, but I have jokes about gun control, you know, and so and it was the verdict came down that night, and the show's going on, and then the next day, and I still did my bits about it, and I'm talking to guys afterwards, and there were a couple guys in the audience, a black guy and a white guy, who were all super pro gun, and they both work for the biggest online gun seller in the country, and it was just very cool, you know, talking with them afterwards and getting, you know, their insight, as well as people who you know, want you know, strict gun control. So it's just it's interesting. You know, usually things aren't, you know, they're a lot more nuanced than you think they are, and there's a lot of issues. I just did a gig in Buffalo, and the waiter at the comedy club was like, "Hey, I won't see you tomorrow on Saturday because hunting season starts tomorrow. So me and my dad are driving out to the woods, and we're going to be hunting all day." And then the Uber driver who took me back to the airport was also hunting, and then he was telling me all the rules they have in hunting, like the bullets can only be a certain size, and in your rifle you're only allowed to have 3 bullets in there. You're not allowed to have 5 bullets in there, and it's got to be certain bullets that like shoot through clean, so they don't. If you hit in the wrong place, it's not going to fuck up their whole leg. You know, all this kind of things that you don't even realize that are out there. You know,
what kind of bullets are these? What the fuck are we talking about?
Well, I think it's kind of like with fishing. Like there's a lot of fishing laws where your hook is not allowed to have like those, I forget what they're called, like the little daggers that go along the side, because when you pull it out, you don't want the barbs. You don't want to be fucking the fish up.
No, what that is for catch and release places.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
but there's no catch and release with bullets.
No, but there was something he was saying about, but it was a similar dynamic with the catch and release stuff with the hooks.
Well, you
and
can't
with the
have
bullets.
hollow point bullets, if that's what they mean, but those are mostly for pistols anyway. There's lead ammo versus copper ammo, but really the impact is environmental. They're worried about birds eating the lead.
Okay.
That's an issue.
But what you're saying are things that most people don't even know exist. You know, which is part of the conversation in gun control.
Right.
You know.
Well, that's you know, I think the gun control conversation and the hunting conversation are very different, because I think what people are really concerned about when it comes to gun control are quote unquote assault weapons.
Right.
You know, they're worried about like what happened in San Bernardino, somebody having large magazines, semi-automatic weapons, killing a bunch of people.
Also in, you know, cities versus suburbs and rural places, it's totally different.
Sure.
Like if a rural area and people are like, well, everyone owns guns, that's a hell of a lot different than if you're in a city and on one block you have 10,000 people living.
Right.
If you have 10,000 guns, you know, within 30 yards, that's a lot of fucking guns.
Yeah.
You know, that's a different dynamic than, and you know, so I don't know all the answers.
I think one of the things you were talking about earlier about like these people that are activists that really have their heart in the right place, they're just learning how to do it right. I think that you could say that overall about what's going on with the internet in general. I think one of the big problems that people are having right now with progressive thinking and what people are calling regressive left, like people that are like very overly PC and trying to reinforce. I think what we're trying to do is make the world a little bit better and a little bit safer and a little bit more open-minded, but along the way there's going to be a lot of stumbling blocks, and there's going to be a lot of poor representations of these ideas.
Sure, and you see it from the right too. I mean, with Trump and some of the things he's saying, it's like, you know, some of these things are...
He's so cartoonish.
Yeah,
you know?
but everyone... But even like what he's doing is similar to what happens sometimes on the left, where everyone is so confident about their idea.
Yeah.
And they think this is the only way.
Right.
And it's like, it's usually a lot more complex than that. You know?
Yeah, almost always. So. Almost always more complex than that. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on with human interaction. And I think ultimately, like, we should probably try to leave people alone as much as possible, let people do their own thing as much as possible, as long as what their own thing isn't interfering with other people's thing.
I agree 100%.
So that way, when something like radical ideology, like Islam, extreme, you know, Muslim terrorist type characters that are doing what they did in San Bernardino and these other places, you got to go, okay, well, now it's a problem because now, you know, someone has stepped in, killed a bunch of people, and they've done it with guns. Right. So we have these issues. We have these issues of radical ideologies, and we have these issues of guns. Right. And we also have mental health issues.
Yeah.
And that's a big one that drives me fucking crazy. That every time someone is a mass shooter and kills a bunch of people, the gun control issue comes up over and over again. But what about the fucking mental health issue? Because the mental health issue is as big an issue as anything else. There's a lot of people in this world with guns. There's more guns in this country than there are people. But relatively speaking, there's very few mass shootings when you consider the amount of human beings. So what the fuck is it that makes people pop?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the stuff I've read recently says that gun shootings in general now are lower than they were 10 or 20 years ago, but mass shootings are up.
Yeah.
You know,
murder is down. Murder is the lowest murder rates. I tweeted this the other day. Lower than they have been in the last 50 years and maybe even ever.
Interesting. But mass shootings, there's more of them. Yeah. I don't know all this. I don't know all the reasons.
I don't think anybody knows.
Yeah.
They also get publicized now. We're in a very instantaneous way. Social media, Twitter. I mean, I remember when the San Bernardino thing was happening, I just started seeing tweets.
Yeah.
Like, that was the first thing.
Yeah.
You know, you just immediately get, oh my God, something's happening in San Bernardino. What's going on? Hashtag San Bernardino.
Yeah, it's trending, right.
Yeah. Trending. Trending's a weird word, right?
Yeah, it's very weird.
You don't want to be trending.
No.
You don't want to be trending.
Nah.
Judah. Judah World Champion. Hashtag Judah World Champion. If that was trending, that's not bad.
Yeah. Well, it's okay.
Judah World Champion rape case.
No, that's not good. That's not good. Not good. But no, all that I don't know all the answers to that.
Nobody
stuff,
does.
But
that's the reality. Is
but
that nobody knows all the
But I do
answers.
know that it needs to be discussed and with an open mind and intelligently, and people need to hear
Both
other
sides.
people's ideas. You know, all sides. You know, it's so. But
you know what's fascinating? When a mass shooting happens, one of the big winners is the gun business, the gun industry.
Oh, their sales go through the roof.
Through the roof. Because everybody's scared that the government's going to take their guns.
Yeah.
So everybody starts buying guns.
That's what
and
I
buying
talked
bullets.
with those gun salesmen in Ohio when I did that gig. They were said through the roof. You know.
Yeah. It's also they always like to point out that those things don't happen very often in places where you have open carry. There's places where anybody can have a gun. You can take a gun anywhere you want. It's very rare that you have these mass shootings.
Right.
But, I mean, if there is a mass shooter, if there's someone that's shooting people, what do you want? Do you want everyone to be unarmed, or do you want everyone to be armed and just having fucking crazy gunfights?
Yeah.
Like, what is the answer? I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, I mean, do you really want to live in a society where everyone has to carry a gun?
Where you're just walking into Walmart with a fucking AR.
Yeah, or you want to give all... at what age... would you be required to have a gun? You know, is it like when you get your driver's test at 15 or 16? Is that when you get your gun also, or do you get your gun when you're 6?
Well, that's another problem, is how easy it is to get a gun as opposed to how easy it is to learn how to drive a car.
Yeah.
If you're driving a car, you have to go through a lot of hoops, and you have to learn
as it should be.
As it should be. You don't have to do that with a gun.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a real problem. You don't have to show competency. You don't have to. They don't have to test you on your marksmanship or any of that.
I think Colbert just did a thing the other night saying you have to show more ID to get Sudafed than to get a gun.
Well, especially ammo. Yeah. There's more restrictions on Sudafed than there are on ammo.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah, I had to buy some recently, and when I bought it, they had to get my ID, and I was like, what? Like, you have to write down someone's ID when you buy Sudafed.
Yeah, and that never used to be that way. In the 80s, you just go buy Sudafed.
Oh, yeah. Until they figured out how to make meth.
That's what we need to do.
Go back to the 80s. No internet. Everyone was
stupid.
Internet.
The internet's the fucking problem.
Yeah, the internet has recipes for how to make meth from cold syrup.
Yeah. Remember when you started doing comedy? Did you ever think you were going to have to be doing tweets and shit like that?
We were talking about that before the show. Like, we were both tweeting. Like, no. I mean, it's a prerequisite. If you want to be a successful touring comedian, you have to tweet, you have to Facebook, you have to... I do 3 things: Facebook, tweet, Instagram. Those are my 3 things.
Okay. I don't really do Facebook anymore. I just couldn't... I do Instagram, Twitter. I just started doing Periscope a little bit, but...
I gave up on Periscope.
Usually, I've done a few, and each one was me on the road, like, in a city, and I have no car, so I'm just, like, walking a mile to, like, the closest, like, CVS or gas station supermarket to buy some groceries. So, like, the 20-minute walk, I'll be like, all right, I'll just fucking Periscope this shit.
Why don't you just rent a car?
Yeah, that's a good point. But then I'm not really going anywhere, you know?
Go places.
Not really, because I usually, on the road, it's like I have to get up early to do morning radio. I got shows late at night, and I'm usually too tired to do anything during the day.
Why don't you take some vitamins? Eat some healthy food.
I do eat healthy food. No, I eat healthy food. Okay. I don't do vitamins, but I do healthy food.
When you're on the road, do you bring your own openers?
Not usually. I'm not at that point in my career where I can really, I'm not making enough money where I can do that, you know? I need to get up like another rung on the ladder, and then I can be doing that. I think I'm like just below that.
You run a successful television show, though, right?
I know, but I never translated anything into successful business.
Just didn't do it?
I don't know. I'm just not a good business person. You know, it's like, I remember, you know, just doing this one show where, like, it was a road show and a bunch of comics were on it, and, like, there's 2 comics who are like, they didn't even have the better of the sets, and they're selling T-shirts, they got their CDs, they're selling left and right, and me and another comic are like, I don't know, you know, no one's even talking to us, you know, and we had great sets. But yeah, it's not, I don't know, I've never been good at selling stuff or organization or anything like that.
Yeah, you just going on the road, doing your thing, getting the fuck out of there.
Yeah. I'm trying to, like, get to see the cities more and learn about them more instead of just going in and out, you know.
Are you looking to do more TV, or just looking to do more stand-up now? Like, what are you trying to do?
Yeah, well, that's, I think I'm going to, stand-up has always been my main thing and still is. I spent most of the last year, when 30 Rock ended, actually, I stopped, I didn't even have an acting agent. And I wasn't looking for one, and I haven't had an acting agent in about 2 years. When 30 Rock ended, I just wanted to hit the road and tour, because I was still doing tons of stand-up while doing 30 Rock, but I wasn't allowed to go on the road much because we were filming in the city. So, you know, like 8 or 9 months out of the year. So I just went on the road, and that's all I wanted to do. And then with the sort of constant sleep deprivation of traveling and, you know, morning radio and morning TV shows, I started actually drawing again, and that's when I started, and then the book sort of like came out of that, you know. After several months, I realized I had like 50 cartoons, and I was like, wow, I think I'm working on a new book here. And so I wasn't planning on that. That's just kind of organically came to me. So I spent most of the past year and a half working on that, and then doing stand-up. I turned down a fair amount of acting stuff that came my way. And now the next big project I need to do is a stand-up project, whether it'll be a special or a 90-minute feature-length stand-up concert film. And then I'll do an album with it because I still have never put one out.
Really, never? You don't have anything?
Nothing. I should have had probably 5 out by now. Wow. Years ago, I turned them down from Comedy Central because I always. Well, this was probably like 10, 15 years ago. I turned them down because of their censorship stuff. I didn't. And now they're much looser with it, obviously.
Way looser.
But then it was like there were subjects you couldn't talk about, a lot of words you couldn't say, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm not doing it. And I also never liked their ownership clauses where they didn't just own that filmed footage of you, they owned all the writing in it also. So if I wanted to do, let's say I had one joke from there, and then I wanted to do that on my own album, but I've like one line, but I've added 3 new lines to it. They either wouldn't allow you, or you'd have to get lawyers and fucking get permission. So I was like, fuck it. So, and then I've been trying to make my own for the past couple of years, and then this book project sort of presented itself, and then at this point the only thing stopping me is me. So, and I think
you must have so much material, though.
I know. I can put out. I think what I'm going to do is just put out my most recent hour, but yeah, I can go back to material I don't even do anymore and put out probably 2 or 3 others,
Yeah, you should do that. You should just bang out like 3 specials in a year.
Yeah, I might do that. Yeah, or maybe one special and then 2 other albums or something.
Because it's so important if people want to go see you that they can see something online. They can find something that they can Netflix or something along those lines.
I have some clips online, that's it, but I don't have like any of the half-hour stuff because I always turn that down.
That's crazy.
And I think a lot of it was fear-based too, because I also have a lot of trust issues with people. Like,
do you trust me?
I do. I do trust you. Okay, I'm trusting you today.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. No, I respect you and trust you. But it's like so I have a lot of trust issues, period, and some of it's because I've been fucked over a lot, but that's okay. But then there's also my own perfectionism. It's like, oh, as soon as you tape it, then I'm going to think, oh, I have this one other joke that goes onto that one, and I want it in there. I want it perfect, and you can't aim for perfect. You got to just go with what you got at that time, and that's what that show represents.
Yeah, it's got to be a representation of what you're doing right now in this one time where this is filmed in December of 2015. Bam, this is Judah Friedlander. Bam, this is it. Whoosh.
Exactly.
But it's hard to do that. Yeah. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard to nail it like that and lock it in and then not say, oh, but I could have done this. Maybe I should have edited that out and that part was flat.
Right.
Take chances.
Right. And then the other like blockage on my own area, mental blockage was, and I'm much better with that now. But for a few years ago, I used to never have it. And then a few years ago, it kicked in, was like that fear of like, basically like not just trolls, but like, bloggers saying, oh, this shit sucks, like they're going to shit on it. And then, because, so many people, like if one blog says you stink, then all the other ones are just going to basically rewrite that one and then write the same fucking article. And then before you know it, you have all the fucking internet saying you stink, or like the whole hipster half of the internet saying you suck. So I never used to give a shit what people think, but at some point,
that can be paralyzing.
Several years ago, that kind of happened to me. So I was like...
It did happen to you?
Yeah, it did. Where I was just constantly, like, I got a lot of anxiety, like thinking if I put something out, they're going to shit on it, and everyone thinks I'm going to suck, and then I'm not going to have a career.
Did this happen because someone shit on you, or you were worried about someone shitting on you?
I was worried about it. Yeah, I was worried about it.
So it never happened?
No. Well, no, I've had reviews where people, like just completely shit on me, and it's all... None of it's factual, you know what I mean? It's basically like a professional troll, but
you're always gonna have that, though, man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
you can't think about that.
Yeah, I've gotten much better with like not worrying about that shit. But for 3-4 years ago, I was having that really bad, and I don't know what it was. I think it was all kinds of trust issues I was having personally and stuff. Because I remember like when 30 Rock was going on, I'd go out on a date with the girl. And then, like 30 minutes in the date, she starts talking about her boyfriend, and I'm like,
"What?"
I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "Oh, I thought we were just going out for dinner on like friends." And I'm like, "I asked you out. It's Saturday night." And I'm like, so I go to her, like, are you cheating on your boyfriend? Are you not into him anymore? Like, is he out of town? Or you guys have an open relationship? She's like, "No, he's here." I'm like, "Well, where is he?" And she's like, "At this apartment."
He's over there watching.
At the apartment. I'm like, well, fucking go to him. What the fuck are you doing here with me? You know.
How many times did this happen?
That happened a few times. Where like
Really?
where girls would like want to like go out with me just to take pictures so they can like tell their Facebook friends and shit.
Oh, so they became friends with you because you were on television.
Right,
but
exactly.
They weren't romantically
I think
interested in you.
I think when that stuff was happening, that's also, and I'm just guessing here. I don't have the exact answers. I'm just thinking out loud. But I think that's maybe sort of around the same time when I started worrying about like bloggers and shit, like shitting on you.
You know, my
like
friend Eddie has this theory about Bill Cosby, and about Bill Cosby when he started doing that to women. And he thinks that that might have been the similar type of situation where these women wanted to be around him, but they were turning him down.
Oh,
and,
gotcha.
And he started drugging them.
Then he started raping him.
Yeah.
I never did that. I just left. Yeah.
You're a much better man than him. But you know what I mean? Like,
no, that's interesting.
That can happen where someone's attracted to you simply because you're a famous person.
Right.
And you think, well, hey, this is a girl that I'm romantically interested in, and I'd like to go on a date and get to know her.
You ask them out, and they say, yeah, and then you're at dinner.
So what the fuck, man? Yeah. So you're talking to this girl, you go, hey, do you want to go out to dinner? And she's like, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're on a date, and she's telling you about her boyfriend.
Yeah, it's Saturday, it's 10 o'clock. Yeah.
And you're thinking, yeah, look at you. I bet you look good naked. Oh,
yeah.
Judah's going to get some. All right.
No.
And she's like, yeah, my boyfriend's waiting for me.
Yeah. No, she just casually mentioned him about something. Oh, yeah, my boyfriend's in this. And I'm like, huh?
What?
Yeah.
And this happened more than once.
Yeah. I remember one girl. What did she? I'm trying to remember what she wanted to do.
Fuck.
Yeah. She wanted to. It was something like.
Buy jewelry?
No, I can't remember. I think it was Time Out New York Magazine. They put me on the front cover of their like dating issue, and they're like a whole issue about dating, and they had a thing on the front said like date this guy, and I'm like on the cover.
You're like, oh, I'm fucking in. Woo!
Yeah. So, and I remember one girl I think saw that, and then she like Facebooked me or something like that, and was saying, oh, she wants to meet me and all this stuff, and so she wanted to go. She wanted to write articles. She wanted to follow me on a date and then write an article about it. That's what she wanted to do. And I'm like, why the fuck would anyone want to do that? And why would I want to fucking do that? It's like, why do I want to go on a date?
So she wants you to meet a random girl, go on a date with her, and she's going to hang out with you guys?
Yeah, because she wants to get, because she's like an aspiring writer, so she wants to try to get, articles written online.
So her way to do is to latch onto a famous person.
Right. So there's always, that kind of shit, So and I had, and before any of that shit, I always had trust issues with people. So then that would make it even more.
Where does your trust issues come from? I feel like I'm your doctor now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
My psychologist. This is always your whole life you've had this?
Yeah, I don't know. Always with authority figures, I've never gotten along pretty much.
And you consider women authority figures?
No, that's just, it's just a relationship.
Right.
So.
How many different girls did that to you when you went on dates with them and they said they had boyfriends?
Well, there's that one I can think of. I mean, it probably happened like 2 or 3 times.
That's really weird.
Yeah.
That's super unusual.
Yeah, but it'll happen after shows all the time where a girl will be really flirty with you, and other comics will be like, "Dude, you should jump on that." I'm like, her boyfriend's right there,
Yeah.
It's like, she'll be flirty with me, and I remember one time, one girl was like taking her shirt off, showing her boobs.
Whoa.
Me and Godfrey are there. This outside the cellar, and her boyfriend's right there. He's taking photos of us doing it and stuff, and.
They're freaks.
Yeah. Some people are just that way, and other people are going, dude, you guys should go with that girl. Like, her boyfriend's taking the photos. No, I'm not going to fucking do
There's always going to be people like that. People that, I have a friend of mine that went with this girl, and the girl told him that she had a husband, and the husband watched and coached her while she was blowing my friend.
That's really weird shit.
That's deep.
That's the shit I don't want to get involved with.
That's deep in the weird pool.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah. I was saying to him, I said, did that feel gay? Like, she's like, he's directing your pleasure. This
the whole
is very
thing
strange.
is that's just bizarre, that whole thing.
But some people are into bizarre shit.
Not like that, man. Not me.
No. Some people are into weird shit, though.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I think, so much of culture is so, like even if you look at social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, if I wasn't trying to promote my shows, I wouldn't be on any of that shit.
Right.
Yet everyone's on that shit.
That's a good point.
Like, why are they on it? Like, if you're on it and you just want to follow different people to sort of get some like ongoing kind of entertainment, but it's like, why, like when people just take photos of themselves at the beach or their food and they post it, I'm like, I don't know, why the fuck are you doing that? What's the point?
That's a really good point. I don't think I've really thought about that.
Like, I get why we're on it. I don't get why anyone else is on it.
Because I've been in entertainment for so long, and social media is just something that sort of came along the way. What would I be doing? Would I be even using it if I don't think I would.
No.
I got onto MySpace to promote gigs. I got
me
onto
too.
Facebook for the same, and Twitter for the same. That's really interesting. And Instagram, same thing.
Like, I know some people, and they'll follow like their favorite, like, musicians and their favorite comics, and they're, so they're on their scroll, they're getting, some, info and entertainment, like, throughout the day. I understand that, but if you're actively posting, I don't know. You know what?
It's
almost like everyone has their own show, basically.
Yes.
That's what the world's become. Everyone has their own show.
Their own reality show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is what it's like.
So
it's also
if a girl,
like a lot of.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please.
No.
You're the show.
No. I've cut you off too many times.
It's all right, man. It's just talking.
I feel bad now.
What were you saying? Don't feel bad. What were you saying?
All right.
If a girl.
No, like some of those girls, like from a few years ago, it was almost like the date was me guest starring on their show.
Yes, exactly.
And I could maybe get them ratings.
Yes, get them a bunch of likes in their photos.
Right, that's what it was like.
I went with the guy from 30 Rock. Look, it's me. Thought he was gonna get laid. Ha ha. LOL.
Sometimes I don't even think they're thinking that. Like, I don't even think that occurs to them sometimes.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, they're dumb.
Well, I don't know. I think they're just so into, like, oh, this will give me, people are going to like this photo. They're not thinking, I don't know that they all actually think it affects you as a person. Just like trolls don't think it affects you as a person often. They're just like, they're just talking shit.
They're just not thinking about it.
Yeah.
They're just using you as a target for their angst.
Right. They don't view you as a human. I don't think,
and for the girl,
people.
she's using you as a target. You're a celebrity.
Right.
You're on a television show that she enjoys. Look, I'm here with him, the guy from the thing. Yeah. I'm amazing. I'm amazing. I made magic happen. The guy from the box is standing, and he paid for my food.
It's a perfect impression.
Is that what she sounded like?
Perfect.
And then my boyfriend says, and he doesn't like you. I don't know why. Whatever.
You'll be like, oh yeah, he likes you too.
Yeah, but when did you ask them? Did your boyfriend know that we're going to dinner together?
Yeah, on that one time I did.
And what'd she say?
She had nothing to say. Yeah.
Oh God. So did you just end the date right there and get out of there?
No, I finished my food. I think it lasted a little bit longer. It was just kind of like awkward and shit. Yeah, it was pretty lame. Yeah.
How'd you guys end the night? Did you hug her?
I don't remember.
How could you not remember?
What's that?
How could you not remember that?
I don't remember. I don't remember how it happened. I just don't fucking know.
The idea that everyone has their own show is exactly what's going on, and that's also when you see these like really self-righteous tweets that people put out. Like, what are they really doing? They're doing exactly the same thing that you see people doing on reality shows, where they're fucking acting. When you watch a reality show and you watch someone, they're doing something or saying something very specifically to get a reaction. It's
I don't watch them, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Like they know the camera's on them.
Yeah.
And that's why they're acting in sort of an unnatural way or in a manipulative way.
Right.
And that manipulation applies to social media as well.
Yeah.
It's just a less pervasive method of doing it. Instead of broadcasting to 1 million plus people on a reality show, you're broadcasting to 10,000 people who follow you on Twitter.
Yeah.
That's a big part of what people are doing today.
Yeah. Like, what's real? Yeah.
It's also what hashtag activism is. What is hashtag activism?
Well, I think
it's a lot of what it is.
Yeah, no, I think it can be both. I mean, I agree with you and I disagree, because I think sometimes people are genuine, but then sometimes people are just tooting their own horn.
Yeah, I mean, there's no black or white in this.
Yeah.
Or I should say.
Yeah. No.
So but I remember. Should I say gray? Is that okay?
I remember doing a stand-up set on a show years ago in L.A. called Late Friday, and I remember doing my first joke. It's a setup and a punchline, and I say the setup part, and I have a slight pause. Everyone starts laughing, and I was like, "What the fuck's going on? They've never laughed there ever. I've been doing this joke for 2 years. They've never laughed at that point." And then I get to the punchline, and they're still laughing at the setup. They don't really laugh at the punchline that much. And then after about like the first few minutes were all just weird like that. And then after about 3-4 minutes, it kind of became like a normal set. Then afterwards, I found out that the entire audience was paid background extra actors. So, and they didn't tell me that before going on. So that's kind of like, reminds me of what you were saying about, everyone had on their own show.
Yeah.
So they were trying to they were acting and trying to act like an audience member instead of just sitting there and just let it happen. You don't have to do anything.
God, paid background. And everybody, when Judah comes out, he's going to say jokes, and I want you to laugh it up. I want to hear your best laugh right now. Come on, folks. You can do better. You can do. Is that all you got? Come on.
And that's the way a lot of times comedy on TV is, where it's so fake. It's just, and that's a more extreme example, but it's like, it's just, I don't know, but it's not easy to capture, even when you see specials, it's not easy to capture a real stand-up night, because when you put those cameras in there and people know what's going on, it always adds a little bit of a different dynamic.
Yeah. Hunter Thompson was talking about that a long time ago.
Really?
In his documentary about. Yeah, it was, he started filming things, started carrying things, like carrying cameras around and filming things. Yeah. And he was talking about, they were interviewing him for this BBC documentary that they were doing. I think it was BBC. And he was saying that having a camera changes everything, because you're not capturing reality, because having the camera and knowing that it's being filmed changes exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It becomes something different now because everyone's aware of the camera.
And this is a documentary he made that he was talking about?
No, it was about him.
Oh, I got to see that.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
There's a few, he's got a couple of them. I'm a big fan of Hunter Thompson.
Yeah.
But the one with Gonzo, The Life and Times of Hunter S. Thompson, I think that was what it was called.
The documentary.
Yeah, that was
I'll have
one.
to check that out.
And then there was another one, Fear and Loathing in Hollywood, I think. I forget which one it was. But there's a few of them. You can find them online.
I'll check those out. No, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, but they were at his place in Woody Creek, Colorado, with cameras and filming them. And he's like, well, this isn't reality because you got a camera. As soon as you use that camera.
He was an incredibly perceptive person, man. That's pretty
Except
cool.
when it came to himself. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's all sorts of blind spots that people have in their own life. Yeah.
I think that's probably pretty common,
Fuck yeah.
It's
way more common than not.
Yeah, and I think it's good to admit that.
Yeah.
I think that's one problem, is where like a lot of people don't admit that. It's like it's okay to have flaws. And
we all have flaws.
Yeah.
If you don't have flaws, you're not human.
And that's the other thing about social media that's weird. It often shows people are showing themselves without the flaws. Mm-hmm. So it's like you said. It's like everything's kind of fake on a certain level.
And they also find a flaw that you have but just fucking attack.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a target.
Yeah.
What did you say about black people, Judah?
Yeah. So
I didn't. Black lung.
Yeah.
A lung. It's a dark. It's cigarettes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of thing. That was the kind of thing I used to worry about. Like, like, oh, you do one thing and fuck, they're gonna get you. I had a couple drawings in here where
it's paralysis by
the
analysis.
way I draw it and the way I word it, I'm like, am I gonna get shit on for this? And I was like, a couple of them, but it's cool. Yeah.
Listen, I got to get out of here, but let's highlight the book.
Okay.
We got two of them here.
Yeah. No,
How to Beat Up Anybody. This is the one that's out for a few years.
Yeah, that one you can get on Amazon for 35 cents, and shipping is $3.99.
The new one, if rain 39 cents, you can get your.
Yeah, I think because you can get used copies. I think new it's like $14, but if you want a used copy, I think it's like 35 cents.
What a nice guy you are.
And then shipping is $3.99. Yeah.
And if Raindrops
that goes back to me not being a good salesman.
No,
I tell
you're
people
a
to
good
buy the
guy.
shitty shit.
You're an artist.
But yeah, if the Raindrops United, this has been my big passion the past. If you like B. Kleban or maybe even some of the old Gary Larson stuff, I think you'll dig this book.
Beautiful. And then your Twitter is Judah World Champ.
Judo, yeah, JUDAH World Champ. Tour dates, JudahFriedlander.com.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man.
This has
always
been
good
awesome.
seeing you. Please.
This is great to see you.
Anytime, man. Let's do it again.
I don't see you much because I live in New York, and it's always cool when I see you.
Always cool to see you too, brother.
Yeah.
All right, Judah Friedlander, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Big kiss. Oh, that was great.